Kurt Becknell. Julia Remonday.
Here.
Larry Schneider. Thomas Malik.
Here.
Michael Wright.
Item four, bid opening for award. First one is, Darren Cooper, this is a tabled item from 12318, authorization to amend the contract with Kirkendall Associates.
Comments?
Oh, yeah, we were right over that. Public comments, agenda items, only 2 minutes per citizen.
Thank you. Richard Marino, 1209 Carrollwood Avenue. My comment is about awarding the videography services contract. What I'm about to say, and for the record, you already know because the email you received on January the 5th. The reason I did not submit a proposal was outlined in that email. I was told by an administration employee that I need to have a parish escort with me to go into the council chamber. When asked why, she said there was parish equipment in there. The first time she told me this was during a phone conversation that started at 3 p.m. on December 21st. The second time was on January the 10th at 11:23 a.m. when I got a call from her wanting to know if I was going to submit an RFP. When I asked about going into the council chamber, I got the same reply. Why? Because of the new equipment that had been installed since June? Why did she call just hours before the RFP deadline? I've been going in and out of this council chamber for more than 16 and a half years. And I need to wait for an escort to do my job. On December 27th at 10:08, I texted the same administration employee asking if someone could meet me so I could set up for the meeting. I received a phone call from another employee wanting to know what I wanted. I told him, and he called me back in 3 minutes and said to go in. Then at 8:55 a.m. the next day, I texted the same administration employee, asking if someone could meet me at 10 a.m. so I could program the DVD player for the meeting replay. I never received a reply. At 10:25 a.m., I went to the council office and asked the secretary if she would come with me so I could do my job as outlined in my contract. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments? All right, no other comments. Excuse me. We have a, Darren Cooper, which is a tabled item from 12318, authorization to amend the contract with Cherie Kirkendall Associates Incorporated. Do we have a motion to take this off the table? We do have a motion. Mr. Snyder, second. Ms. Remonday, sorry about that. Any lights?
That carries 5 in favor with, 6 in favor with 3 absent.
Questions?
Yes. They have a couple of options. I think Ms. Laverne attempted to call you Mr. Snyder, but we understand it was the holiday. But the amendment that we're proposing is about $162,000, and it's for work that wasn't included in the original contract. We'd come before the council to approve a resolution to apply to the statewide flood control program for about 90% of the construction costs of this project, which in this case, it's a $4 million project. And in order to complete that application, they required a limited topo survey and hydraulic and hydrology study. And we did not have that as part of the original contract. but we felt very good about the grant and thought it'd be necessary to expend the money up front for the new requirements so that we could try to get additional construction funding, because what we know is the designs as proposed exceed the amount of funding we have available, and it is a much-needed project. The additional funds were also used because of the size of the project. It's probably one of the largest drainage projects in the parish's history. Again, at $4 million, there were additional requirements for permitting, surveying, and geotech that exceeded the $35,000 initially budgeted for all three of those. But again, it was all related to available funding. The project is funded through the 2014 bond issue. We're hoping to get a successful application to the statewide flood control program, but their funds can only be used for construction. So we have to use our unrestricted funds for design, permitting, and surveying, because their funds can only go toward construction of the project. The amendment document hasn't been reviewed, which is why we're asking the council to either leave it tabled or to approve it pending review by legal counsel. We did meet with the engineer, I think last week, just to get some clarification on what those additional costs were for and why they were necessary. Keep in mind, our former Public Works Director was kind of managing this, and he's no longer here, so we were trying to get the rest of us up to speed on where exactly this project stood. Mr. Cooper. Mm-hmm. Well, we can, I feel like we're going to get something. Are we going to get 90% of the construction funds? Maybe not. However, what we're stuck with is what we have now is insufficient to do any of the three proposals that were made by the engineering firm. So we are going to revisit that, but where it leaves us is the $4 million that we budgeted for the project really is not enough. So we couldn't start the project anyway because we don't have enough money. So we're hoping to get some additional dollars through the statewide flood control program. I think several of us were in Lake Charles when we actually were first introduced to this at the Police Jury Association meeting. We've had some very positive feedback. They actually came to the parish to explain to us how to go about submitting the application. They also suggested that nobody in our region had ever submitted, or they had never received a submittal from us, so we're on their radar. So I feel confident we're going to get some money, whether it's 90% of the $4 million, I can't tell you that. But what I know is without completing this, we won't be able to submit the application, and without doing some of the permitting and surveying, we can't move to construction anyway, and we don't have enough funds based on what we have in the current design.
So this amount here is based on?
The hydrology, it was very specific. Yes, the hydrology study, as well as the limited topo survey. The grant was very specific as to those requirements. Although there was some work done prior to applying for this grant, it didn't meet the requirements for the grant. So the primary costs are related to those two new requirements, and they are specific to the grant. The other cost was, you know, again, as we do with everything, we had $4.5 million. Based on the size of the project, we used the engineering curve, and what we had left, we put toward permitting and surveying. Well, it wasn't sufficient. Amendment-wise, we're asking to fill that gap in what it would take to actually complete all of that for the original design, and then to do the two requirements for submittal of the grant.
So
And
this-
we're almost there
Okay.
with the grant. This is just a requirement. It does take some time, so we definitely want to get started or give the engineer permission to get started, because it's going to take him some time to complete this, and it is needed before we can actually submit the grant application.
So the extended work that we got to do, engineering work we got to do, is so in the neighborhood of a 1.6 million or so?
Actually,
And
like,
with the new study we got, with the topographical, couple of,
He actually
Whatever
presented,
that
I think,
is.
3 projects, and the cheapest one was $5 million, and we only had $4 million. But on this case, it's $162,000. So the cost for the hydrology and
Topo.
hydraulic study
Yeah.
and the topo is like 112. The remaining 50 is for costs that we didn't originally budget for in the initial contract, because we just didn't know the exact cost and the extent of the work. But with a project this size, you know, it requires more than we typically do on our projects.
you have any idea when we're gonna know when it's gonna come through? As far as what the Louisiana Department of Quality or whatever we'll get this money from?
I'm not sure, but according to the
Perhaps.
engineer, he said it's going to take him at least 60 days to do
The paperwork?
these studies and the work that's required for us to submit the application. As I said, when you asked about my gut feeling, I feel good about our application because they're kind of soliciting us to apply for these dollars.
Oh, yeah?
And they have pots of
Great.
money for large parishes and small parishes. Again, many times, smaller parishes can't apply because they don't have the match. We're very fortunate that we have match money in our bond fund, so we're able to apply for some of the dollars that maybe other municipalities are not. So without knowing exactly, I do feel good about our chances of getting some of these dollars to
Okay.
add to the cost of your project.
So even if we don't get this money, at least we have all the groundwork done
Yes, sir.
leading up to it. We know we can find some money to do it.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Are there any time constraints to get this done in order to keep the funds correct?
Actually, no, it's an annual allocation. We do want to get started, obviously, on the process, since the engineer is telling us that it's going to take him, once approved, at least 60 days to do the process. We need the process completed before we can submit the application. So again, in an area that, you know, when we talk about time sensitiveness, Cambridge is an area that we are concerned about the flooding. This is an ongoing project. What we know is we don't have the funds to construct what has been designed, so we need to secure some additional funds.
Do we have a motion to recommend
You said, so there isn't a time constraint. We got, whenever we start, we got a 60-day thing.
Oh, yes, sir.
60 days approximately. Okay, yeah. Until our legal people can look at it, you mean? That's fine. Let's leave it on the table, let them get a chance to look at it. Motion to put the table this item until next meeting. Till out.
We've got a motion with a second by Ms. Remedy. Lights?
That carries 6 in favor with 3 absent.
This table. Item 6 is Julia Remedy Lennox Meyer authorization to enter into a contract with South Central Planning Development Commission to provide assistance relative to moving a polling location in St. John the Baptist Parish Register of Voters. Excuse me. You like to table that?
Yes.
Okay, so that, Lennox first and you second, Judy?
Yeah.
Tatum.
Lights, please.
That carries 6 in favor with 3 absent to table. Yes, sir.
Item 7 is Gene Stewart, Blake Fogelman, authorization solicit bids for construction of the Edgar Water Treatment Plant clarifier rehabilitation plant project. Mr. Fogelman?
Thank you, Councilman. CH2M Hill has completed the design for this project, obtained all approvals from the LDH and Office of Community Development, and is ready to advertise for bids. The estimated construction cost for this project is $536,426, which will be funded through a $438,190 Louisiana Community Development Block Grant and the 2015 bond issue. Plans and specs were made available to the council for review and were approved by the parish engineer. Due to the time constraints related to the grant funding, approval is needed, as this project must be advertised by February 22nd, 2018. Administration recommends approval.
Heard from the parish.
What? Oh, sorry. It's on now. All right, we heard from the parish. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Motion, Mr. Becknell, second from Mr. Perilou. Lights, please.
Question?
Just a clarification. This was not a contract, so the line that Mr. Fogelman, unless you have it in yours, didn't read regarding sending it to legal counsel, didn't apply. We're asking you to go out for bids.
Okay.
So that needs to be stricken from this response. You have the right one? Okay. I don't know. What
I just said the plans and specs were sent to you all for review. I don't think I said anything regarding legal
What,
review.
was it in the report?
Yes.
Oh, it might be, okay,
Yeah, I'm clarifying the admin report that has an error in it.
sorry.
Okay.
Question? Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Snyder.
you say it's the construct and rehab
Yes, sir.
clarifier?
Yes, sir. It's structural steel rehabilitation. So there's a lot of overtime rust spots that we want to shore back up, recoating, and adding in some modern day electric valves and stuff in it. So it's all above ground. We're not doing anything below ground. This is the project that was deferred due to putting the water line on the Mississippi River. And now we're coming back. In 2015, we actually met with the residents of the West Bank and put out I think 6 different projects. And I think this is the one that they, in that meeting, chose on moving forward with.
It was deferred?
It was I think at the time the request was to build a new one.
Right.
Instead of using that money to build a brand new one, the water line, they invested that money in the water line, which is a backup for every unit in that plant, not just, building one clarifier. And if you have a problem with a pump, then you still, don't have water. So now that we have that established, it gives us the ability to move forward with this rehabilitation of the clarifier itself. So we can take the clarifier down now and still provide water to the West
With the
Bank.
white pipe under the river?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
all right.
do require maintenance, and this is a project that's been a long time coming.
So we're gonna overhaul the whole thing?
Yes, sir.
We're gonna empty it out and do everything with
empty
it?
it out, blast it down, fix any steel that needs to be fixed. There's some upgrades we're doing to it with the pumping and
Yeah.
the motors and everything, and then painting it all back up.
Okay.
Just to clarify a little, I think you guys will remember the original bond project was to build a second clarifier for redundancy. And rather than do that and still have one that wasn't functioning and wouldn't necessarily give us the redundancy we needed, we elected to move forward with the connectivity to the East Bank through the water line under the river, knowing that we needed to go back and make some repairs to this clarifier. But because the DHH accepted the redundancy with the water line under the river, we're able to take it down, still provide water to residents, and make the repairs necessary. So just a little information. I think, Mr. Becknell, you may not have been here when that original decision was made, but we do have a backup source for the West Bank, and this is a much-needed project. As Blake has referenced, we're getting $438,000 toward a $530,000 project, which is, a good deal for us, but we have to follow the requirements of the grant. And in this case, there are time constraints that we have to get this advertised, and we can be penalized, liquidated damages if we don't meet the timeline that they've set, which reduces the amount we receive from the grant.
So we are getting this $400,000 then?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
As long as we go out within, so we had 30 days to go out, and because of the way our council meetings fell, this is the date that we could get it on. So as soon as we got notified, we put it on this agenda. This is the first one we could get it on.
How long can we sustain, how long could it be sustained over there from outside the river, from the east
I mean,
bank?
under normal operations, we've done it 12 to 24 hours without any hiccups. Obviously there are weather events and things that happen, but we're hoping, we're trying to catch it during good weather, and knowing we do have redundancy, being able to assist from Laplace to Reserve if ever Reserve would have an issue. That can be somebody hitting a fire hydrant, right? It's anything. But under normal operations, we can sustain on a given day-to-day basis.
So we won't have any problem with that?
No, sir.
It's
not intended, no,
District
sir.
number 1. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Use your lights.
That carries 6 in favor with 3 absent.
Thank you.
Item 8, Bailey Rebo Authorization Award Contract for Videography Services.
Thank you. Global Media South LLC of LaPlace, LA was ranked first out of 2 proposals received by the Source Selection Committee for videography services for council meetings. The scope of work was provided to council members prior to the release of the solicitation and will be funded through the legislative budget of the general fund. The contract document was sent to legal counsel for review, and administration recommends approval pending their review.
We have anyone from the public like to make 2 minutes? You want to comment? Yeah.
Thank you. Richard Marino, 1209 Carrollwood Avenue, LaPlace. At 9:45 a.m. on December the 21st, I sent an email to purchasing asking a question about the videography service RFP. I got a reply within 15 minutes. Then at 3 p.m., I got a call from an administration employee telling me that I cannot go into the council chamber without a parish escort. Can anyone tell me why? You think that after having been a contractor for more than 16 and a half years using my equipment, someone would want to discuss what is needed to broadcast these meetings? Just look at the RFP Exhibit B. Several items are wrong. And that's not just what needs to be done. Back in April of 2014, I had a vendor come here and the company submitted a proposal to install the cameras and other equipment. The proposal included a portable device that could also be used in Edgard. Nothing happened with that proposal. My contract stated in the January of 2014 that Exhibit A, Item 7, perform video equipment engineering, equipment networking, and system installation. After the parish hired another contractor, I did talk with the company a couple of times. I explained to them what was needed to broadcast from LaPlace and Edgard. I guess someone else from the parish knew better. Several $1,000s were spent on this new equipment, and you still can't broadcast to all the cable systems. Does anyone know why? What about the Edgard meetings? During the renovation of this room, there was equipment that was destroyed. The audio system was not replaced to be able to control all the different levels of audio. I guess someone else knows more about audio systems than I do. Also during the renovation, I got numerous text messages wanting to know why the meeting was not being replayed. No one questioned that I came in here by myself to get the meetings replaying because the workers had unplugged the cable.
Sir? Yeah, that's the 2 minutes. Mhm. Thank you for your comments, sir. Are there any other comments?
You got a comment?
Okay. Do we have any questions? Mr. Snyder?
Well, first of all, our legal people haven't looked into it yet, so I like to table it as far as that's concerned. But, and I will make a motion to that. I'd like to know, how come we weren't involved in the scoring process? You know, as far as our secretary and the people that work with these people here all the time and getting things, that's what I like to know. And I think that was kind of a slap in the face. They should have been informed, you know, or at least invited to, you know, to be involved with the scoring process. Who we had doing the scoring process? Bailey, Duran, and who else?
And Jerry last minute
And who?
because Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones.
last minute because our IT person
Yeah,
couldn't.
I know. I understand that.
Yeah.
Now these people, we work with these. We work with this videographer all the time. Seemed like they should have been at least, conferred with, and see what they would like. Cause I know there's some suggestions I like to make. I mean, maybe I just overlooked this, but there's some things I like to see be a little bit different with our broadcasting.
And we're open to suggestions. This has been a lot of work,
I understand.
Councilman. A lot.
I know you work hard. You work hard, dear. I understand that. And you worked hard.
Yeah, I think me and you talked a few times about the scope of work outside the budget
Right.
meetings and phone calls. And of course the proposals, we only received 2. We didn't receive the local person that's here today or a bunch, and one was a local company, one was a big company out of New Orleans. I think just putting in just because we didn't have a lot of proposals. But it has been a lot of work to try to get it back broadcasting. I think because of the new equipment that's installed, whenever we make the transfer to the new building, we will be utilizing all the equipment. In fact, we've started already. There are now, we're using graphics on the computer. There's new slideshows and videos we're going to start playing on Channel 15. So I'm with you, Councilman, on that. I think it can be utilized a lot further than it is right now.
So you haven't forgot our conversation.
I have not, sir.
Okay.
And I'm on the same page with you. I have 5 video ideas that as soon as this contract's awarded, we're going to get together to execute for the Government Access Channel. The community can utilize these services. We can advertise more than just a few slides. There are other graphics we can use. Right now, we're using parts of the new system that was installed, that was referenced earlier. We're actually using it the past 2 meetings. I'm not sure if she told you guys, Jackie and I have been in close contact throughout this process. We've talked many, many times on this whole thing, trying to get it to replay and get it up and get it working. So it has been a work in progress, and it still is a work in progress. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot more that can be done, and I plan to get that done.
Oh yeah. But I just think they should have been invited.
Okay.
At least be part of that scoring process.
Yes, sir.
That's what I would have liked to see.
Okay.
Get a little buy-in with input. You see. But I like to go in on the table. I like to motion the table until we can get our report from our legal people, and use the people we're using right now. However you decide to get them, from POs or whatever, until we can get this thing finalized.
And just for informational purposes, Mr. Snyder, we are under a PO system. There has been some changes. The people who are videoing on a PO are the firm we're recommending.
I
They-
don't know.
I'm just-
I'm gonna be waiting on the DAs.
No problem. Just,
Yeah.
full disclosure, there were 2 firms that submitted.
I understand.
The one who's doing it now by PO submitted, and the larger firm that does our 4th of July celebration out of New Orleans submitted. There were only 2. We had the benefit of the doubt of seeing both's work. We were familiar with the work that was done previously by the firm, and then, of course, we had the benefit of seeing the work that was done on a temporary basis by this firm and working with them. So that kind of went into the selection process, and of course, pricing is also a part of that as well. But I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that the firm that's being recommended is the one that's actually providing the service right now under a PO.
And before we move started, if I can, I'd just like to clarify 2 statements that were made earlier. Well, one is that all the new equipment will be utilized once we move into the new building. It's a lot of work trying to get it up with the new camera system to duplicate, but once we're in the building, we'll be utilizing all the services and all the equipment that we put in. Right now, we're using some of it. Once that equipment is put in, the Government Access Channel goes away. So it's not as easy as just, ta-da, let's use the used system. There has to be processes in place, contingencies, and a plan to use the entire system. So that's what we're working on. Also, it was referenced earlier that we're not being able to broadcast to all the channels. We do broadcast to RTC and Comcast. The reason for AT&T U-verse not being broadcast is because it's on them. They actually don't provide the Government Access Channel in their services. I fight with them almost weekly about it. But just to clear up the statement, is nothing on our end not being able to broadcast, is that we cannot get them to agree to broadcast our system.
AT&T don't do that?
U-verse, yes, sir. I can't even get a rep.
Well, how come they broadcast Fush?
I'm not sure.
I watched it.
myself, IT, and the contract we have with IT, we fight with them all the time. They will not give us the government access channel. We've even had meetings. I know my bosses have even had meetings with them because it's been historically a problem trying to get our information to that system. But it's not something that we're sitting back and not doing, just to clarify. It's something that they won't offer to me that is a continuous fight.
Okay, we have a motion to table pending legal counsel. There's a motion made by Mr. Snyder. Mr. Meyer was seconded. Use your lights, please.
The table.
To table.
6 in favor with 3 absent. Now, do we need a recess?
Yeah, I think we need a recess to, we've moved in there.
I had AT.
Motion,
Motion to recess.
motion to recess.
Second.
Mr. Meyer, Mr. Perilou, second. Use your lights.
Okay, that carries 6 in favor with 3 absent. We'll have to go into that and come back.
Come on, Terry.
Y'all can just walk.
So that they can't stop. We on the list of parishes. Maybe the police, we got hit with parish we want to watch.
B-Day.
I'm just saying. I don't know what we got a big issue.
St. John the Baptist Parish regular council meeting, Wednesday, February 14th. Silence all your cell phone electronic device. I'm pretty sure you did that for the first meeting. Just a reminder. Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Larry Saraparu, Kurt Becknell, Julia Remenday, Larry Schneider.
Here.
Lennox Modair.
Here.
Thomas Malik.
Here.
Marvin Perilou, Jacqueline Hotard, Michael Wright. We do have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. I'd like for Ms. Remedy to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Mr. Becknell with a prayer for us. Thank you. Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to take a recess from the regular meeting. Motion by Mr. Becknell, second by Ms. Remedy. Use your lights, please.
That carries 6 in favor with 3 absent.
16 filled with 3 absent.
Okay. Back into finance.
All right.
Number 9.
So we're on number 9.
We have to have a motion to go back into finance.
Motion to go back into finance. Mr. Snyder, second by Mr. Becknell. Lights, please.
That carries 6 in favor with 3 absent. Go on ahead.
So, number 9, State Skater, authorization to renew group health insurance for the Office of Fire Services, the Blue Cross Shield of Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, Council. This renewal through Tachi Insurance and Financial Products is for an estimated annual premium of $432,404.16, reflecting a 2% decrease in the expiring premium. The base policy is funded through the Office of Fire Services. The policy includes a buy-up option, which would be paid through payroll deductions. Administration recommends approval.
We've heard from administration. Any questions? Mr. Snyder?
I was just trying to read what you just read. I thought like I heard something in that statement, whereas payroll deduction, what you meant by that?
Yes, if the employees elect to select the buy-up option as opposed to the base plan that's being recommended, then they would pay through payroll, through deductions.
What is a buy-up option?
The plan that they currently have. The plan that we're recommending, which has a 2% decrease, is an Ochsner-only plan. If the members of the Office of Fire Services decide that they want to keep the existing coverage that they have, they would pay the difference between the two plans. The renewal was slightly more expensive than the
The
Ochsner-only
renewal of the
plan.
whole plan?
Yes, sir.
It's a little bit different than the new plan.
Right, but because the new plan is an optional-only plan, so for those who would like to keep what they have, they can keep that plan, but pay the difference between what the parish pays and, you know, the difference between the two.
So this was offered to all our employees?
I'm sorry?
This was offered to all employees?
This is for the Office of
With
Fire
the
Services.
With the optional plan? Was that offered to all
Yes,
our employees?
actually, the parish employees plan no longer have an optional only. It's a national plan, right? A national HMO plan. So previously it was an optional only plan, but that's been expanded as of January of this year. It's a national plan.
So the
National
optional plan,
HMO.
so the optional plan in this particular case is just for firefighters?
Yes, sir.
Just, not necessarily this one, but this plan here just for firefighters?
Yes, sir, because we've
Do they
already.
pay anything on the any hospitalization, on the hospitalization plan right now?
I'm sorry?
Do they pay anything on the hospitalization right now?
No, sir, that is 100% funded by the parish.
And may I ask why?
The motion that.
And other employees pay something?
The motion that authorized the 15% employee participation back in 2015 was specific to the plan that was being presented for parish employees.
So, well, tell me this. I understand that firefighters are, you know, they got a dangerous job, okay? And it seems like the insurance should be a lot higher than mine, because the worst thing I do is sit under a pecan tree. Why did they get free insurance and the rest of our employees got to pay insurance? You know? I don't quite understand that part of it.
The motion in 2015 that authorized the employee participation was specific to the plan that was on the floor to the council at the time.
And that's the way it was presented to us. But us, myself, I'm not big on this, and I was just wondering why wasn't that brought to us back then, because I feel like our employees should all be treated the same. I mean, if one got to pay for insurance, we all should pay something on insurance. That was our whole point in the first place. How much is this premium? $400 and some thousand?
Right, and the chief of operations is here to explain a little that his budget can sustain the 100% contribution by the employer, but also his group didn't historically get the increases that parish employees got as well.
Okay.
So he's here to speak on that.
Good evening, Councilman. Just kind of like Ms. Kadar said, we for this particular plan, we noticed that the increase was not going to be able to be funded through the Office of Fire Services. So we had to come up with some creative options to provide a benefit package that was reasonable for the parish, but also reasonable for the employee. Historically, firefighters have only gotten a 2% raise since 2006, while parish employees gotten 3.5%, 5%. Firemen have only gotten the 2%. So we're not equal there. We don't get the same holidays as parish employees. We get 10, y'all get 13 plus days given by the governor, the council. We don't get those days. There's a lot of other benefits that we don't get. So we are different groups. Because our rate of pay is so low, starting at $9.41 an hour is what a fireman makes to work in his parish compared to the other parishes. This is a way to entice people to come by having that benefit package that's paid for by the parish. It's really one of the only things that kind of draws people here because the rate of pay is so much lower than the other fire departments.
Well, I'm gonna let somebody else speak right now.
Okay.
Then I'll have something else to say about that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Malley. Just for clarification purposes, we do go out at different times for our parish employee package and the fire department. I think because they're younger, and because of their job, it was more beneficial for us to keep them in a separate pool. However, I think what Stacy was trying to say was at the time we were presenting the health insurance for parish employees, we'd gotten like a 23% increase. We could not afford it. We had to do something different, and that's why at that point the council elected to ask for participation, 15% participation from our employees. Again, it was two separate solicitations. They don't come up around the same time. And as the fire chief has just said, at the time, they could sustain paying that. This time we had to go to a different policy because it was cost prohibitive. but it does allow for the firefighters to pay into it themselves if they want that higher benefit. We've been struggling with this for years, trying to maintain a consistent, comparable level of service, but we all know that the cost of insurance keeps going up, and when we were paying the 100%, we really couldn't keep up. And in their case, they did the same thing, so we're recommending a slightly lower plan and giving them that option to buy up. They are governed by a different set of rules than our employees. They're, for firefighters and police officers, they're governed by somebody else. And I think what Stacy was saying was their raises are dictated by statute, and it is 2%. Whereas for employees, there's a 3% requirement by ordinance for other employees. And in the past, we also provided the 2%, which was 5%. And over the years, we've not been able to do that, but when we were able to, the firefighters were not included because they weren't included in our pay scale. So there's some differences, and you know, we'd be glad to sit with you to go over them more, but that's kind of what led to where we are now. But we did follow what was approved at the time by the council, and have since put out an RFP for fire services and renewed or accepted proposals based on this current process. And so we move forward with it again, but we are looking at the cost and had to come down slightly unless there's a contribution from the firefighters.
So this $400,000, that's the total premium for the year? For how many firefighters?
41.
41?
Yes, sir.
Jesus.
Mr. Pearley?
Okay.
Ms. Kiddo. I've been asking this question since I got on the council. Why is it can we get an umbrella policy with everybody included, firefighters and the parish employees? We put a RFQ together for quotes and go out and let the insurance have a bidding war against it. Why can't we do that? We just, all these separate policies.
Well, years ago, when we looked at bringing the firefighters onto our policy, it was cost prohibitive for them. They're a younger group, they're a, dare I say, healthier group, so their rates are much lower than the parishes.
But I mean,
So
if you get all employees, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But it was beneficial for them to keep their own policy because they were so much lower than if they blended with us.
Well, it's not beneficial anymore because insurance, I'm gonna use myself for example, I'm paying a $4,000 just premium, just a deductible. And I don't understand that the more people you have in the insurance, seems like the rate should go down lower. And it's time for us to go out for RFQ on this. I know Mr. Snyder said it, Mr. Madare, Mr. Sarapu is in here, and I've been saying it from day one. But we constantly go out and have all these individual policies and paying all these individual premium, where I can pay maybe $600,000, include everybody, instead of paying $400 here, $400 there, $400 there. It's just ridiculous to me.
But it's not simply just bringing more people on a plan to affect your numbers. They look into account the health of the group and the claims of the group. We would cause them to pay more for their insurance if they came on our group. We also have an older population, and like I said, our population isn't as healthy as this group, so it's more beneficial to them to save the money and stay on their own plan.
I went through that with the older group with an HR person and told me the same thing. And I told them, absolutely not. Your work group is younger, and you're paying more insurance than the parish. So I'm not going with the age thing because I heard that before, and I still say we are paying the norms for insurance where we can have one umbrella policy. DA office, assessor office, the parish employees, the firefighters be under one policy, and it will be cheaper. And say this is the insurance I want to have, instead of paying all this individual money to insurances and have one policy.
And so
I can't see that.
I can't speak with certainty as to the underwriting methodologies, but I would like for Ms. Hatchie to come and maybe she can speak a little more on the subject.
Go ahead. I'm waiting for her. She coming up and say something.
Natalie Tachi, 108 Lakewood Drive, LaPlace, Louisiana. I would like to address all those concerns. First of all, underneath Affordable Care Act, you have different quoting systems for different size groups. The firefighters, number one, are under 50 lives. The parish government is over 300. The quoting systems, the underwriting methods that they use are totally different for over 50 lives versus under 50 lives. With the firefighters' situation is that they look at each age of each employee and give them a rate. Come up with an average age of the group and give a flat rate. And I think in this particular case, my memory serves me right, the employee rate's around $400 a month for the firefighters. On the parish side, we got 3 different plans, but if we average it out, it's around $600 a month per employee. So right then and there, you're saving $200 per employee times 41 employees. That's each month you're saving it. So if we would have put the firefighters with the larger group, then you would be paying $200 a month per employee, and that's not including the ones with families, with spouses, and with children only. All right? So back in the day when the firefighters were offered coverage, they were actually on the group plan. They took them off when they started to expand so that they could save the budget dollars. Plus, they had a different HR department, payroll department, than the parish did. So if you took the firefighters and you put them underneath the parish, underneath the larger group, number one, you're going to pay more in premium. You're going to probably have to hire another HR department person, another employee. You'll have a salary there. Whereas if you looked into what they're really paying this company, it's probably less expensive than hiring a new employee. Plus you have the savings monthly on the health insurance. To address the question that if the more people we have, the less expensive the insurance will be, is absolutely false, okay? In underwriting a larger group, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what they do. They figure out how much money they need to take in based on how much money they think they're gonna pay out in claims. So this year, for example, they did not sustain the losses that they thought they were gonna sustain in 2017 when they went up on our premium for 2017. So in 2018, we didn't get a rate increase because they didn't sustain the losses that they thought they were going to sustain. So therefore, they didn't give us a rate increase this year. So to say that if we put the firefighters on our group plan would save you all money, in this particular scenario, no, it would not. I hope that answers all your questions. Any other ones, Mr. Paraloo?
No, I am good. I understand that that's your profession. I don't agree with it. Personally, I think it's a racket. But it is what it is. I'm gonna vote for it because it's for the firefighters. But I'm not for this because I still say, been telling administration go out for RFQ for the longest and still is hesitant to doing it.
But they did go off RFP. Q. And what's a Q?
From different insurance companies, put them in a bidding war.
They did. They did do that. They got quotes from Blue Cross, Humana, and United Healthcare.
But that was just for the firefighters.
Just for the firefighters. Yeah.
So are the volunteer? I'm sorry. Yeah.
But we did the same thing for employees too, right? We typically do the same thing for our employees.
Yeah, and we do the exact same thing for the employees. Matter of fact, they sent out the same RFP requirements for a small group as they do in a large group, and it's really not proper because an RFP they have an RFP department for these insurance companies, and when you're under 50 lives, when you're under 100 lives, they don't have a department to do it. So any agent that wants to do it has to do all the same requirements as the big carriers do, meet all the same requirements, and put out the same paperwork as if it was the 300-person group.
All right, thank you. Mr. Moderator?
Yes, I agree with Mr. Paraloo. First of all, concerning this insurance, firefighters not having to pay and the other workers having to pay, this was not broken down to us the way it's explained to us right now. Okay, that's what happened when you don't get the full understanding or get all the information needed to make a decision. When we made that decision, we was under the belief that it was all parish employee, including the fire that had to pay. Now we found out that's not the case. And we did not have that broken down and explained to us like it was before. And I feel like the other employees feel. If I have to pay, everyone have to pay. And that information was not shared with us when we made that decision. But that's something that happened at least a couple of years ago. And now we find out this group is different and this group is different, and one group is paying and another group is not paying. That's what happens when you have a lack of information or communication. Those type of things happen. Now, as far as the group insurance, everybody together, okay, you said that our parish employee would pay $600 and firefighters are paying $400, okay? And you say because they're a younger group, a healthier group, that's why the insurance is lower, basically, by being a younger group.
It's not necessarily that they're healthier, it's that they're younger, and
Well-
they're under 50 employees in that
Okay,
business, so to
but
say.
health have something to do with it too.
I'm sorry?
Health have something to do with it. That's why insurance company, as you just said, they raise their rate according to how many people they think going to get sick. So to recoup their money, that's why they raise the fees on us.
They do that, but under 50 lives, the rates are set based on an age chart, and it can't be, it cannot change from those age charts.
I understand that.
Based on, they don't do underwriting.
But one thing you said was that if we put them in, the insurance could go up by $200.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it seems as though when you add younger people, health-wise, your insurance should go down.
It all depends if they
And-
are healthy,
Well,
and we don't know that. We just know
well,
that
they
they're
don't
younger.
know their health either when they talk about age.
Right.
Because you have some people that's 20, 16, have some serious health condition.
That's correct.
Okay, so they're talking two sides of the mouth. Okay, one side because of your age, and then one side about your health. Okay, so
All
they're
we can-
talking crazy.
All we can really talk about is age,
Well,
not
the
health.
insurance company don't but a racket. Okay, insurance company don't go out of business. All they do is raise rate. Okay, you get an accident, you got a higher insurance rate. You get sick, you got a higher insurance rate. Okay, they're nothing but a racket. I've been saying that. They're just like casino. They don't go out of business. They just keep raising money. Okay, so I will say this. Okay, it don't cost us anything to go out and look to see if there's someone out there that if we put it all together, give us a lower rate. Okay, totally, which will benefit the parish, not just individual. Okay, if we can go out there and look and see if there's someone that's going to give us insurance that's going to cover the group that Mr. Pearl and we are talking about and save the parish money, that's a win-win for the whole situation for the parish. Okay, and I do not believe that if we add the firefighters, that it can only benefit us. It won't hurt us. Okay, that they're going to go down. That's something we have to look into. Okay, and I'm pretty sure there's someone out there that'll be willing to look at that possibility. Okay, nothing hurt. It don't hurt to try to see what's out there and what come back to us. That's all. It don't cost anything to go out there and check.
Any other questions?
Yes. Does this take in consideration our volunteer files too? Do they have any way they can be part of this?
They get accident and sickness policies through VFIS. They're not under a health and medical policy.
They're not on our VFI, what is that?
That's an insurance policy that we cover in case they would get hurt while going to a call or at a call, or even sometimes at their place of residence so far after a call. This policy covers them in case they have, God forbid, a heart attack or something from being on a call. This policy covers anything that happens. Plus, they're covered under our the state's workman's comp policy, which covers them if anything happens while they're performing the duties of a fireman.
Are there any volunteer? Well, anyhow, are there any volunteer that goes out even far in the area down like in La Plaza over here?
We have some good
ones,
responders.
right.
Yeah, we have some good responders. Most of them have full-time industry jobs that when they're off they do that. So we do have some good responders.
That was another thing I was thinking about. I know the industry got their own firefighters.
Right.
Do they do the same thing, you know, offhand?
I'm sorry.
Do they do the same thing like Marathon? Marathon got one umbrella that cover all of the employees.
Yeah, that I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, that's easily can be found out easily. That's the only reason why I'm gonna back this too. I know you got to have health insurance, no problem, you know, and our firefighters do a great job, but I'm just trying to look at to be fair with everybody and save as much money as we can.
And I know the firemen would love to be fair too. I mean, they see the raises come for parish employees 5%, you know, sometimes 7%, and they just getting that 2%. So fair is fair if you want to use that.
But again, just keep in mind, their pay is dictated by state statute. So, you know, again, which is why we also, initially, when we moved to paid firefighters, because the employment requirements are different, we had to hire a group that specialized in that. They are extremely different from our regular employees. Again, a lot of what happens with their employment is dictated in statute. So, love to sit down with you guys and maybe go through it. I don't have it all to memory. What I know is it is different. We can go back and look at historically what has happened, but Mr. Mader, you commented, we were specifically addressing an insurance policy for employees. Since I've been around, they've always had separate ones. So it wasn't that anybody tried to keep anything from you. We specifically requested authorization to go out for RFPs for insurance for employees, parish employees. The firefighters were not included. So when the rates came in, we were specifically dealing with rates for our parish employees. There wasn't anything withheld. It was just specific to that case. And I think you guys have asked before, why do we go out separately? And this information has been provided that they're a different group, they get different rates. So as far as I'm aware, we've always had two separate policies, one for parish employees and one for firefighters, that have been pretty much dictated by what they can afford and what kind of savings could be obtained because of their group.
Mr. Mater.
Yes, and Mr. Brown, I wasn't trying to insinuate that, you know, you personally was trying to hold anything back, but being a new council at that time, when this came up, we was not aware of the knowledge that you had, like it's been separate. Okay, when we did the discussion about the employees, we was talking about everyone. Okay, and then we find out it's not really everyone. The firefighters are a little different. Okay, we understand that now. And that's why it's important that we go out and see if we can find a policy that cover everyone that save the parish money in the long run. That's what we need to go out and find out. Okay, because like Mr. Perilou said, all these different policies here and policy there, the only one that's benefiting is the insurance company because they have all these different policies they can hit us with. Okay, if we can find a company, it don't cost anything to go out there and look. If we can find someone that can put us on under one umbrella and lower the premium, okay, that it save the parish money. When they save the parish money, they save the employees' money at the same time.
And we'll be happy to do a little research on that for you, and possibly, do we still have an active insurance committee?
You need one.
If we can appoint one possibly and get some presentations, I want to see what other parishes are doing with career and employees, as well as possibly any companies that may quote on them together. And I think it would be a good opportunity to present that to the finance committee.
Thank you.
I mean, to the insurance committee, I'm sorry.
If there,
Just one more question.
one more.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Can we get our broker to look into that umbrella type thing and just let us know what's happening with it? Or Mr. Perilou was talking about?
That we'd have to do that on renewal of the larger group, or do you want to do it now?
I just want to know, you know, I want to know.
If anybody would cover everybody,
Yeah, everybody.
we would have to do a full, request for proposal to the carriers to include the firefighters. And being that it just renewed in January, probably, I mean, I'll speak to the carriers and see if they'll entertain it, but it may be too close to renewal.
I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, we pay a good premium, you know.
They want money. You need to change it.
Yeah. I'll check on it for you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very much.
If there are no other questions, we have a motion. We do not have a motion.
Make a motion.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, motion to pass it.
We have a second. Ms. Remedy, so we have a motion on the floor to approve lights.
No, the authorization.
Oh,
to-
authorization,
the group
yeah.
Health insurance.
I wrote too much on mine. I can't see it
Nine,
anymore.
9. Authorization to.
Authorization to,
Fire services.
authorization, We have a motion for authorization to renew the group health insurance for the Office of Fire Services, Blue Cross Shield. Lights, please.
That carries 6 in favor with 3 absent.
Yeah, the rest is insurance. Item 10, Stacy Cater, authorization to award the group dental insurance for the Office of Fire Services, Delta Dental. Administration?
Delta Dental through Tachi Insurance and Financial Products was ranked first out of the 2 proposals received by the Source Selection Committee. The estimated annual premium is $28,535.52, which is a 3% increase over the expiring premium and will be funded through the Office of Fire Services. Administration recommends approval.
Questions?
Yeah, you got one. Is that price based on age too? Young people, old people? Old people need dental. Young people got a mouthful of teeth.
Again, I can't
that
speak
got
to
something to do with it? I mean,
won't
since
speak to the-
since you're using age, okay? All right, I want to know.
We have a motion.
I didn't get an answer.
I mean, I'm not going to try to make light of it, sir. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just telling you.
I mean, I can't. I won't speak to the underwriting
Yeah, but
methodology
I'm
again.
speaking to the insurance company because
I
they want
understand.
to use youth versus age. Okay, I think old people is just as important as young people. Okay, in fact, you get to be old people by being young first. Okay, so the insurance company need to get themselves together and base their policy on evidence and not just a person's age.
Do we have a motion? Ms. Remedy, second by Mr. Snyder. So the motion's authorization to award group dental insurance for the Officer of Fire Service Delta Dental. Usual lights, please.
That carries 6 in favor with 3 absent.
Jeez. Item 11, authorization to renew group life insurance for the Office of Fire Service and Fire Service to Southern National Administration.
This renewal through Tachi Insurance and Financial Products has an estimated annual premium of $2,655, reflecting no change from the expiring premium. The policy is funded through the Office of Fire Services, and the administration recommends approval.
We have a motion?
A motion.
Motion from Ms. Remedy. Mr. Becknell, second. Use your lights, please.
That carries 5 in favor with 4 absent.
4 absent. Item 12, authorization to renew the civil defense commercial property policy with Great Lakes Reassurance.
This renewal through Riverlands Insurance Services Incorporated provides commercial property coverage to the Public Safety Office. The annual premium is $2,280.49, reflecting no change from the expiring premium. The policy is funded through the Department of Public Safety, and administration recommends approval.
Motion? Mr. Becknell. Ms. Remedy, second. Use your lights, please. You got a question? Oh.
Public safety office?
Yes,
Is insurance for that cover that building?
yes,
That office?
yes, that office.
Where is that office?
In the EOC where Travis, where the emergency operations room is,
And 911.
in 911.
Is that the same insurance that's
Thank you.
is that the same insurance that's cover the rest of the building?
That's the separate policy. There's always been a separate policy.
You know why is that separate, or why it's got to be separate? I mean, insurance on a building is a building, you know? I mean, unless they got some wacky going on in that office over there.
I think it's
I don't
probably
know what it
related
is,
to
I just
the,
want to know why.
I'm
to the
taking the equipment.
the 911 equipment, all the radio,
Well, I
all the,
understand that, but all that stuff is insured too, isn't it?
that right here.
Right, through here,
Right, this is the insured,
Right, the 911 equipment is over here, and what's in that office that we got to insure?
the radios, the towers.
The what?
All of your readings from the towers, everything is, all of that's inclusive into this insurance.
So we got to get separate insurance when we move it. It's gonna move over there.
They're not
right?
moving.
No, it's not gonna move over there. It's gonna stay here. So, Jesus. Okay. That don't make sense to me.
Ms. Mater.
Yes, that's the thing. Like Mr. Snyder, I don't understand that. You said that insurance is going to insure the equipment that's in the building, right?
Yes, the contents of the building.
Okay, what about the contents of this building?
That is under our package policy, which expires in,
Well, don't it have all type of equipment in this building?
yes, and that equipment is covered, but under the policy that expires, April 15th.
No. Let me make sure I got this straight. This building here, all the equipment that's owned by the parish, computers, printers, microphones, everything in this building, we have insurance on it through the building.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Now the equipment in the EOC have a different policy.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But basically they have just about the same type of equipment that we have.
They have,
Well, I'm not talking about outside tower. I'm talking about inside the building itself. What do you have different?
Travis Perla, Assistant
Yeah,
Director. of
just
Public
tell me
Safety.
some of the things you have different.
We have a Motorola Solutions has a setup within the EOC, which is all of your public safety network for communications. It's a very expensive. You all approved it as a very expensive system. If we have any issues with that, as far as into lightning that comes in, we have lightning surge protectors that come in. Any type of unforeseen incident that occurred where we lost operation in the EOC, basically that's what this coverage is for.
So it's not necessarily the building, just the equipment.
Moreover, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, just the equipment, nothing else.
I mean, your consoles, any of the furniture that's in there that we purchased with 911 funds, all that stuff's covered as well. It's a lot of equipment that's exclusive to a public safety.
Now,
communications
wouldn't
center.
all that added up, like the furniture would add more to that particular insurance?
Not really, no.
No, okay.
Ms. Remedy?
I was just going to explain that a lot of that includes your 911, your ambulance service. I definitely want all that to work for me. It's just the requirements are so specific. I just think it makes sense on its own.
Any other questions? None. Can we have a motion?
We have a motion and a second.
We have a motion. All right. Use your lights.
It carries 6 in favor with 3 absent. Now we just need a motion to
Number
adjourn.
12, motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mater and Ms. Remedy.
Mr. Mater, Ms. Remedy, second. Use your lights, please.
That carries. 6 in favor with 3 absent. And, you wanna wait a few minutes before we start the next meeting? We're gonna wait a couple of minutes before we start the next meeting.
5-minute break.
5 minutes is fine.
Okay, St. John the Baptist Parish, council meeting is back in session. We have a 2 minutes per citizen on items only on the agenda. Okay, come forward, please.
This is about money, so we have a little handout.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Jane Body. I'm the director of Evergreen Plantation, 4677 Highway 18, Edgard, Louisiana. We have been open at Evergreen for 20 years. I was here when the River Parish's Tourism Commission was formed. So this is not a new thing to me. It was formed 17 years ago. Many, many things have changed since then. I have not been active in it for 10 years. As business owners and stakeholders of St. John the Baptist Parish, we ask you to support us in the proposal to withdraw from the River Parish's Tourism Commission. From 2013 to 2017, we, St. John Parish, have contributed almost $1 million to the Tourism Commission. This is 4 times the amount of the lowest contributing parish, yet that parish has almost all control with little or no consideration of us. The commission has not, and this has been repeatedly, has not given requested information and data that's vital to understanding and building a strong tourism economy in St. John Parish. The tourism industry has changed drastically in the 20 years that I have been part of it. It is a red flag that we are only one of 2 regional commissions. Now this actually is from the state. We have 3 members, so do the other 2 parishes. If you will look at we are green. We give the most money. Very seldom do we have the biggest vote. Visitors come to our area for businesses, attractions, and history, not our participation in the regional commission. We should not risk $200,000 a year and hundreds of thousands of dollars, which are quite possible with grants and other things, to belong to an organization that has not proved to benefit us. We, St. John Parish, have over 100 tourism-related businesses and attractions, and we have 300,000 visitors each year. We had a little meeting. There were 25 of us. It was just discuss this. The 25 of us almost did not go home because we sat and networked to help each other. That is what the Tourist Commission should be doing, and it is not what it is doing. We need all of our resources. We need to spend our money in St. John Parish. I can't tell you, from my point of view, how many opportunities we have that we should be taking advantage of. It is not going to happen with the River Parishes Tourism Commission. That is plantation country. They intend it to remain plantation country. There are only a certain amount of dollars in a tourist pocket, and this is discretionary spending. There's not a lot of it out there. So you have to do one of 2 things. You have to compete, so you can limit the number of people. We're 2 minutes? Okay.
Well, I actually gave you 3.5.
You did?
But that's
Must have
okay,
been
but you know, we just have to
All right,
move on.
thank
But I definitely understand what you're saying, and
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that other council
And
members do.
it is on the agenda.
Okay, yes, and you can speak on it again. Okay, anyone else? Come forward. Excuse me, you will be able to speak on that item again when they come up again.
Hello, my name is Ray McMurray, and I'd like to speak on behalf of my family, as well as the taxpayers and utility customers who could not be here today. I'd like to comment on 2 agenda items, Resolution R-1804 and the obvious water billing errors by the parish, if that's okay. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Regarding Resolution R-1804, Ms. Rowbottom's December 27th comment about $6 million LDEQ Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan being tied to smart water meters caught our attention. LDEQ confirmed our suspicion that the register replacement was never a possibility under this loan program. It appears smart water metering with leak detection software is coming to St. John Parish. Why the secrets? Why continue to mislead this council, which creates confusion for everyone? We deserve to know what we are buying, since we, the taxpayers, residents, and businesses of this parish, will be paying the $6 million price tag. From our conversation with LDEQ, we can only conclude that in addition to the new billing system, the parish is planning to purchase and install a completely new smart water metering system parish-wide. When do you plan to make this information public? Is there an installation plan to minimize interruption of services to the residents and businesses? Regarding the obvious water billing errors by the parish, the utilities created the newest billing issues. Customers were never notified their accounts would be repeatedly estimated. An estimate is not a read, it's a guess. 7 to 9 months of estimates make estimating an account a wild guess, since the account's history now includes more than half a year of guesses. If an account is overestimated, the customer is unknowingly overcharged. If an account is underestimated, the unsuspecting customer is undercharged and owes money. As usual, there was no forethought and no plan in place to assist these customers. Additionally, who knows just how many customers are being double charged for water and to a lesser degree sewer. Of course, the older, more well-known issues still remain, such as spikes and leaks. The administration and utilities department would like to believe there are no spikes, only children running loose with hoses. Spikes and leaks are included in estimated billing and bill averaging. A data log, which we believe should be trashed, is being used to force payments of outrageous bills. It does not work on older original registers or registers where the battery is dead. It is also highly unlikely the data log can identify a malfunctioning register. Fourth, with base rates for water and sewer, extended billing 40 to 50 plus days increases the price of both water and sewer charges for thousands of minimal water consumers. Of course, shortened billing 15 to 20 days overcharges those same customers. What's being done to both residential and business customers in this parish is disgraceful and has discredited the utilities department. Common sense dictates a return to competent business practices is necessary to reestablish confidence between the utilities department and its customers. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you. I did make a mistake a few minutes ago. After you speak on this item, you will not be allowed to speak on it again when they come up on the agenda. I just want to make sure I correct that. Thank you. 2 minutes, come on, yes.
Hello, I would like to speak on item number 7 about the Tourist Commission. I was also a part of that focal group, and I would like to express to the council why we would like to withdraw from the present Tourist Commission. My name is Rita Perilu, and I support the formation of the new St. John Tourist Commission. I was asked to share my experiences as a stakeholder in the New Orleans Plantation Country Tourist Commission. I represent Historic Riverlands, and we first approached the Tourist Commission many, many years ago to inform them about our site being placed on the National Registry of Historic Places, and we were looking for advice, counsel, mentorship, and that was many, many years ago when Jesse Lambert was executive director, and it was located on the Airline Highway. We then went back and shared again when the new executive director, Jay Tuzo, was there, and then again when Kimmy Carlos was there, and now under the leadership of Mr. Buddy Bowe, we are still introducing our site. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about or what site I'm talking about, this proves my point exactly. I thought the Tourist Commission's primary purpose and reason for the funding was to promote tourism in our area. Historic Riverlands is located in St. John the Baptist Parish and is the proud caretaker of the original Our Lady of Grace Church building. The Archdiocese donated the building to Riverlands Christian Center in 1991 with one stipulation that we had to move the building off their property within 2 months' time. By the grace of God, we met their deadline. It took us 18 months to get the building to its present location on the former Cornland Plantation property, where it presently is located. We worked for several years to get this historic structure, Riverlands Christian Center did, to get this historic structure on the National Registry of Historic Places because of its religious, social, and ethnic significance in the South. We were granted that, and it was placed on the National Registry of Historic Places in Louisiana in 2005. So the state of Louisiana recognizes this site as important to tourism. Historic Riverlands was added to the African American Heritage Trail by the Lieutenant Governor in 2012 and began providing historic tours to the general public. So the Lieutenant Governor's office recognizes this site as important to tourism. During the sesquicentennial celebration of the town of Reserve, they purchased a time capsule to be opened in 50 years and buried it on our property. So the townspeople of Reserve recognize this site as significant and important. I can honestly say that we have been an active stakeholder in the Tourist Commission since 2010 and have had to stand our ground through intimidation, time and time again, to insist on being recognized as a historic site here in the River Parish, just to get the advertisement that we have received today on the brochures and the marketing materials. And yes, it was Mr. Paul Auclane, who was the past chairman of the Tourist Commission, that did advise us to pursue a grant, that connected us with a grant writer that he knew. And she toured the facility, and we counseled together and submitted a grant to BP for the establishment of a music exhibit that we entitled Soul River. Just for clarification about the grant, we did not receive any of the funding, nor did we choose the people to facilitate the grant, but praise God, we did receive the deliverables, the panels, the music kiosks, the interpretive plan, the rack cards. We were also told that there was $500 allocated in the grant to have an opening reception and a public launch of the new exhibit. On one other occasion, we received $500 to help with the advertising expenses of our River Parish Festival. Historic Riverlands will always give credit where credit is due and remain grateful to Mr. Paul for connecting us with the grant writer, and to the board, we appreciate them for approving it, and to the Tourist Commission for help facilitating the grant on our behalf. With that being said, we still support the separation because, honestly, it is not a fair partnership or distribution of the resources. The commission is pretty much controlled by a handful of people through fear and intimidation, and I must say none of these people are a part of St. John the Baptist Parish. I have seen people and businesses come with great ideas, potential products, come and go because the atmosphere does not welcome or support change. So I have a little bit more to say, but I think I got my point across, and so I do support the separation. And Miss Julie Remedy was back in the day when I was going before the Tourist Commission. I'm saying that to say, let me just sum it up this way. Wild Wayne, a radio personality from Q93 in New Orleans, brought his staff and his youth to our over the summer. He brought his youth camp, and his words were, "Thank you so much, Mr. Perilou, where have you been? We didn't even know this existed out here. We've been looking for places like this to help educate our youth," and they had a wonderful time. And one last comment, Mr. Mark Romeg from the New Orleans Tourism, he said after he took the tour, "Historic Riverlands is a rare treasure hidden in the river parishes." Well, I support the change because I think it's time that we come out of hiding.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Moving on, any further comments? Okay, moving on, introduction of new businesses. We don't have any. Consent agenda item, approval of minutes January 23rd, 2018 regular meeting. Okay, motion by Mr. Begnell, second by Ms. Remedy. Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, any comment from the council? Okay, use your lights, please.
Carries 6 in favor with 3 absent.
Carries 6 in favor with 3 absent.
Yes, sir.
Okay, public hearing on ordinance, we don't have any.
We don't have any, sir.
Committee reports? No.
That would be Tom.
Okay, finance. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Mallett, second by Mr. Snyder. Any comments? Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 6 in favor with 3 absent.
6 in favor with 3 absent. Old businesses, none. New business. Natalie Robotham Resolution RA 18-04, a resolution authorizing the filing of the full loan application to the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality for a loan to finance the replacement of commercial and residential water meters in St. John the Baptist Parish through the State Revolving Loan Fund.
Yes, this resolution authorizes the parish president to file the loan application on behalf of St. John the Baptist Parish and to serve as the designated official project representative for the State Revolving Loan Program. This is a requirement to move forward with the project. And for informational purposes, I think we've been before the council at least 3 times with our bond attorneys. We could not have gotten this far without your authorization in the first place. This is moving the process forward. Initially, we looked at every option with the meters, whether it's replacing the registers or the whole meter. Of course, after meeting with LDEQ, they gave us some guidance, and it is for smart meter technology. In the end, we are putting together an RFP that will include all of the requests and requirements of the loan, as well as from the parish, with regard to leak detection, with regard to a portal for residents, some additional metering capabilities that we don't currently have to determine our water loss and where exactly the water is coming from, to update some of the larger meters, which we think are problematic for us, as well as meters throughout the parish. So there was no secret or misinformation. I think you guys actually attended a water meter meeting where different presentations were made. This is one step in the process. Again, your authorization was required before we could move forward with any of the requests. This has gone before the bond commission. It's come before you on at least 3 occasions, and this is one more step. So we are pursuing new meter technology. Again, it didn't appear that just replacing the registers would be sufficient, again, because the life of the register versus the life of the meter would at least be 10 years apart, which we didn't think would be a good use of dollars. So again, this is the request. It is a requirement to move the project forward. And again, we're working on the specifications for someone to put together a plan that addresses all the concerns that have been addressed through meetings and concerns expressed through the council and residents.
Okay, you heard from administration. Motion by Mr. Mallett, second by Ms. Remedy. Any questions?
Questions?
Mr. Mallett?
Yes, ma'am. How much money were we looking for?
There's a not to exceed amount of $6 million in the approval process. As was stated before, it's a low interest loan under 1%. You only get charged when you complete the project and only on the amount you use. So depending on what the price comes in with regard to bids will determine how much of it we need. But we are doing it competitively, and we hope to get, the best price. But we do have a loan approval up to $6 million.
Has the administration identified a particular model or company?
No,
Or
sir.
You're still going through that process?
Actually, it'll be a public process. We're putting together specifications. So anybody who meets those specifications can submit on it. And again, we are looking for newer technology. We are concerned about separate parts, because that's when you run into some problems with maintenance. We are looking for the leak detection. That is a component of the loan. And of course, any specifications that we come up with need to be approved by DEQ before we can even advertise. So the firm has been gathering information on the number of meters, the location. As we've talked about before, we had to have a plan to address meters that were under concrete. Do we want that to be part of the process to have them relocated, or is that going to be a separate item? There are a lot of things that are under consideration in putting the specs together. I think you guys have talked about wanting it to be somewhat like Entergy, where residents could go online and review their own bills before they get a high bill to see what their usages are. Again, all things that we think are good. We're not part of our previous system. Everything will be based on available funds, so we may have to have some alternates. But we are looking at all the things that have been discussed and requested going into the specifications so that we can get bids that meet the needs of the parish.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Mr. Snyder?
These bids on the meters, they're gonna take into consideration installation?
Yes, sir.
Not just the,
Yeah, not just the purchase. There are a number of things. One, it's the purchase of the meters, it's the installation, it's also to have some type of pricing standard for replacement meters and a time frame for how quickly you can get those. All the things that, were learned to be problematic under the previous system, and of course, some of the concerns that have been expressed by you guys as well as residents. So, 10 years ago, there was a different technology, a different process. It's changing very quickly, so we are trying to account for the newer changes and models as we go, but no selection has been made at all. We're just putting down specifications that we would like for a company to meet to be able to do this project.
again, that $6 million, loan, how, gut feeling, can we get that?
We pretty much have that.
Okay.
So this is the process. I think it's gone before the bond commission. Again, these are steps, like we're in the process of getting them to approve the specifications before we can put them out. Very stringent requirements. We're following them to the T, not moving without their approval. But this is pretty much a done deal.
So this,
You still got it?
so this coming from one of our
Constituents.
about us not being able to, get the smart meters with the $6 million, that's.
I think what she was referencing, we couldn't just get registers to replace onto our existing meters, which could be the case. But when we looked at it, we didn't think that was necessarily the best idea anyway, because the warranties would be on different time frames, and it would only be a matter of time before the meter went out if we replaced the register. So we did look at a variety of options, and as we needed to, in trying to get the best product that costs the least for our residents. So we have interviewed a number of companies. We've been working closely with DEQ, which is the funder of these dollars, to make sure that anything that we do would be in line with what their requirements
I
are.
think we all agreed to that back.
Yes, sir.
in the meeting, that we need a register, not just register.
Meters.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
sir.
do.
Which is why y'all authorized us to move forward with this process, which is where we are now.
Okay. Any further comments? Okay, use your lights, please. Oh, hold on.
It's for the resolution.
It's for the resolution. Okay. Use your lights, please.
That carries 7 in favor with 2 absent.
I carry 7 in favor with 2 absent. Okay. Next on the agenda, departmental and engineer report. Okay. Next on the agenda is Mr. Larry Saraparu, Marvin Pearlou. Discussion regarding the rate fees for the community center. That item is tabled. Do you want to remove it?
Mr. Martin, I'd like to leave it table just to review this, just getting this report today. I've been looking for it all week and all morning, and I got it when I came to the council meeting. I saw it. So I'd
Okay.
just like to leave that table till the next meeting.
All right, we'll have it, leave that at the table. Okay, next on the agenda is Mr. Snyder. Take over.
Thank you. Moving on the agenda, Mr. Madare, an update on drainage and road repair in District 3.
All work on this project is complete, and the contractor is finalizing quantities to issue a final change order. Councilman Madare and the Public Works Assistant Director conducted a walkthrough Wednesday, February 7th, and will compile a list of concerns to present to the contractor. Public Works has submitted their visual assessment of streets for the 2018 road improvement program. It is reviewing prior years' estimate to finalize the list in accordance with the funds available.
Okay,
Mr. Madare?
first I'd like to,
We do have some information today concerning the road,
Okay.
on the streets that we're gonna overlay.
okay, go ahead.
No, that's it.
You got,
And we'll be sending that out. What I'd asked him to do was, we didn't have official estimates. We knew what the budget was. So based on prior years and how much, that linear footage would cost, we just did an estimate about how many of those roads we think we could get done out of the 800,000. Obviously, once the parish engineer does his official estimate, we'll know exactly how much it costs. As we did last year, if there's funds available, we can add some more roads. But you guys will get that list. We're pulling out all the roads that we won't be able to fit into this year, so you can see which ones were selected. As usual, they're throughout the parish. There is one in Pleasure Bend that we're hoping to use the DOTD dollars to repair, so we're pulling that one out of our parish list. But the rest are throughout the parish. Some of them have been on the list before. We weren't able to get to it. Some of them are new, but we'll send them out to everybody before moving forward.
okay, well, first, I'd like to thank Mr. Verdell. Okay, I don't think I do it enough, because whenever I call him, he's there, take care of situations and stuff the best that he can, for our district. So I just want to make sure and thank him for that. publicly. Well, now he's up to the mic. Okay, but first thing I want to say is I don't see the guy, the engineer, or the contractor here that did that project. Okay, maybe they're tired of coming to all the council meetings. They might feel as though they're a council member, but I feel sorry for them because this is not going to go away easy. I am not pleased at all after we took that walkthrough with Mr. Verdell. He saw some of the problem firsthand. Okay, you know, I try not to lie to people. I'm not going to ever say I never told a lie, but I try very hard not to do that. Okay, and I'm extremely upset that this guy told me 7 months ago he was going to take care of certain individual driveways. Brought him out there, took the pictures. In fact, I made a point to take him out on a rainy day. And he saw the problem. He said he was going to take care of it. Problem still exists. Okay, it still exists. Then they were supposed to have paint this individual driveway. They go and get paint that you use to paint a porch or an outside deck and not cement paint. And I have pictures where the rain just beat the paint away. You could rub it off with your feet. Okay, so don't try to con me or the people in my district by throwing some cheap paint on the driveway and expect we're going to approve that or we're going to walk away from that. That's not going to happen. Okay, so it's probably a good thing you're not here today. You understand? Because don't tell me something 7 months ago that you're going to do and then you don't follow through on and do it. Okay, it's not going to happen. It's not going to fly with me. It's not going to happen. Okay, now if you have to go back and pick that cement up and slope it the right way or put a drain where a drain should be, okay, like I told him before, when you pick up a drain in front of somebody's house, you don't take it away. The drain was there for a purpose, okay, and 2 spots, okay, one could easily be solved by putting the drain back where it was instead of removing it because the lady driveway is sloped to drain to where her drain was. They removed the drain. So now she have water sitting on her driveway. The other one, the driveway is completely whopped. It should be pulled out, and that's the one that I spoke to him 8 months ago that he said he was going to take care of it. Same thing. All they did was went cut the front of it and square it off. Okay? So I'm not going to be playing around with this, but they come in here, they want changes, change orders to get more money. They want this, they want that. Okay, I want them to just take care of the people in my district and do it right. If you say you're going to do it because I'm not going to back off on you one bit until you make sure you do everything that you say you're going to do. And that includes painting that driveway. And don't get some cheap paint and put one coat on it. You can actually still see the cement through the driveway. Okay, I'm not going to accept that for the people in my district. And it wouldn't happen anywhere else in this parish. So don't think it's going to happen in Reserve in District 3. You're going to do it right, okay? And I remember an old thing Tom Benson had, maybe that's why he's rich. Okay, if you go in his office, got a big sign, say we do it right the first time, if you don't have to come back a second time. Do it right the first time, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Okay, but I'm not going to accept anything that the citizen in that district, in that area where that project was supposed to improve situation and not decrease what they have. I also have pictures about an individual called me complaining about the sand versus the dirt she had in front of her driveway. I took pictures of it. Every time it rained, all the sand is going down the drain. And I have those pictures to show him, and he told me that sand is better than dirt. I don't know where you come from, okay? But it don't happen. Okay, sand run away every time it rains. And I'm not going to accept that. Okay, the people want the dirt back. Some of the people want the dirt back. That's what they should have, not sand. We already done settled on the grass issue. We're going to take care of that, okay? But anyone that have a problem, okay, and I can tell you, he could tell you, okay, I was not pleased to go to these driveways that I've been told several times was going to be taken care of, and nothing been done. And then to see that cheap paint they put out there, okay?
Mr. Snyder?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, we met this morning to discuss your concerns, and we had some of the addresses. I just want to make sure that we have them all. So can you make sure we get the exact addresses that you're referencing? I know we had 2 that you appear to have covered, but it seems like there may be an additional one that we may not have. Please get us the address so we can follow up on this before our next meeting.
And I'd like to thank you for stepping in and getting those addresses because it seems as though this guy can't remember addresses. okay? Because, I mean, it's been 6, 7 months, okay, and I'm getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of receiving the phone calls from the individual, and I'm tired of seeing sand run down the drain every time it rains, and everybody's yard is up and down.
I just want to make sure I get your exact address and the complaint for each one, so I'll know exactly what the discussion should be.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Next on that, Mr. Lennox, my update on code enforcement's role in trash, debris, pickup, parish-wide.
Good afternoon, Council. Alex
Good
Carter.
afternoon, Mr. Lennox.
Code enforcement continues to process both large and small trash and debris violations, recently completing more than $15,000 of work in abatement. Since May 2017, 19 trash and junk violations have been opened and closed, and as of February 8th, 3 large trash and debris cases are open.
Mr. Madell, anything?
Trash, right?
Yes.
We have 2 days, I think 2 weekends, where we have what we call parish-wide cleanup, okay? And I think the parish is probably doing as best they can, you know, but I know the citizens have to do a better job, okay? But I received an email, okay, Mr. Swafford got the email, and he sent it to the sheriff's department, he sent it to us, about the same location I mentioned to you 2 weeks ago when we was in the meeting about this business that had all that trash on the outside. Okay, and you say you was going to contact the sheriff's department because he have a department that deal with that. Did you do that?
I don't recall specifically that conversation, so I'd have to get a
yes.
site to check with my supervisor.
Yes, Miss Toon was in that meeting when I made that comment to you, and you the one that mentioned about the sheriff's department and someone you was going to contact. Okay, so either you wrote it down or you.
Right. I honestly just don't recall. So I'd have to look and see. But they do have a litter abatement officer for smaller stuff that is in the right of way. Is it in the right of way or is it on their site?
I think it's on the site. Okay, it's on the site. I think. You know, I believe that portion of property belongs to that individual company.
Do you remember the address?
No, it's River Road. It's right there in front, East 13th Street. Okay, it's right in front of East 13th Street.
It's
to
the
side.
property right behind,
Not behind. That's her property too, but the one I'm talking about is visible to the River Road. It's right to the side.
okay. I think I remember.
Where the
you saying-
canal, where that canal runs through, right there.
And
Okay.
I'm remembering now too, now that I know what site you're talking about, and I can look and see where it is in the violation process. I mean, I'm sure that that's.
Well, I don't
communicated to the
think
supervisor.
we ever wrote it up, because if you didn't go any further than what I told you, then it haven't been written up.
What I do typically is when I receive complaints, I forward them to the supervisor, who then assigns it to an inspector, who then goes out and looks and sees if there needs to be
Well,
cases.
that's what I'm saying. You didn't recall the conversation, so you didn't assign it to anyone. Okay? So there's no need to go look for it.
But you just told me where it was.
Yeah,
So-
but I mean, now you have to do that.
I think what she's saying, she didn't recall until you told her.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah,
likely
well,
that
see,
we're talking
that's
about.
what I'm saying. Write it down. Write it down so you don't forget. Okay? Because I mentioned it to you a week before, and then the following week we get an email about a citizen that passed and saw the trash and wrote a comment. You know, it wasn't a very nice comment, but it was a true comment. You understand? If we're going to have a parish-wide cleanup, then we should expect the businesses to keep their property clean, and we also expect the people who go in those businesses not to throw the trash all over the place. And I mean, when I saw it, it was terrible. And then the comment came a week later from a citizen that passed there. So we need to try to make sure that we either get the business to do it, or, you know, we have a community service program or something coming up. Someone need to do it, okay? Because it's bad. It's on the River Road, and we're trying to improve the looks of the River Road, okay? So do we have, quote unquote, our code enforcement officer, are they supposed to look for these things too?
Our code officers are in the field all the time looking for and writing up trash and junk debris violations. But I would ask in the future, when you want to know an update about a specific site, that you just let us know which site you're looking for, because I can't remember 1,000 violations all at once. So with this one, I would just say I'd love to know beforehand which site you're asking for, so we can just, because I can look in the system in 5 minutes and tell you if it's written up.
Well,
but I just don't know.
I understand all that, but that site I'm talking about is the one I spoke to you about in the meeting, and you told me you just forgot to write it down. Okay?
Well, anyhow, Mr. Perla,
No, wait a minute, I didn't tell you I was finished.
you ought to take this thing back.
No, where will you let me finish though? Okay, so what I'm saying is, I just want to know if our code enforcement officer, part of their job is grass cutting, abandoned vehicles and everything else. I just want to know, make sure that they're aware that when they pass and see that type of debris, okay, that should have been written up. That's what I would just want to make sure you express that to all the code enforcement officers, okay, because that was too obvious. Thank you.
Just quickly, Ms. Carter, I have a couple of trash violations, and again, this is in Sugar Ridge, the second one. Residents supposed to have a dumpster and they're renovating, correct?
It doesn't have to be a dumpster. It depends on the level of work. If they have a trash retaining receptacle, so like they could get approved 4 stakes in the ground with like a fence around it. If they have to keep it together on the site. We say a dumpster, but the code also says or a trash retaining receptacle. So they can interpret that as long as it's neat and it's picked up, it meets the requirements of the code. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a dumpster.
Okay, this is on the curb, and so code enforcement will go out there, because they did not have a for sale sign in front of the property with the whole kitchen on the side, on the neutral ground. No dumpster, just sitting there.
Right. No, that would not be it.
I'll give you the address. You can
Right,
send
if you
code
could just
enforcement.
send me the address.
I have contacted Mr. Carter, George Carter, to pick it up. It's the second one in Sugar Ridge I had to do. And the Metro pick it up, but I know they're charging us for it, but I got to keep the area looking clean and nice back there. But it's on South Sugar Ridge, and I'll give you the address.
Okay, thank you.
Bailey's behind me saying it is one they're working on. She's familiar with that case, so they are following up.
Anybody else? Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Monday, update on abandoned vehicle parish-wide.
From May 1st, 2017 through February 6th, 2018, 128 junked vehicle violations have been opened, 99 violations have been closed, and 12 junk vehicles have been towed by the parish. A sweep in District 6 was conducted in June 2017, and Districts 2 and 3 in November 2018.
Good. Mr. Mondale?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Do you have a breakdown for District, do you have a breakdown for District 3? You don't have each district how many?
I could break it down for you. It's going to be, our system runs specific reports. Sometimes we ask a question that it doesn't run a specific report for, but we can move forward and create a special report. So I'll see if we can run that now, and if we can't, we can craft it so that moving forward we could run that type of report.
Right.
By district.
My only concern is this ordinance been in place a while, and I haven't seen any significant improvement in my district as far as junk vehicles. And what I mean by junk vehicles, I'm talking about ones that don't have any tires on it and wreck. Okay, I mean, I've been waiting to see those vehicles be tagged, and I haven't seen them. Okay, and I know my district is pretty big, but I'm not exactly talking about the whole scope of my district. I'm talking about basically where I ride around every day in my local area where I stay at. Okay, I haven't seen any significant improvement. I haven't seen any tags or anything like that. Okay, I mean, I just wonder what's going on parish-wide if I don't even see any signs of improvement in the area that I drive around every day. So I just want to know how is this being effective? I don't see it.
Well, I would just advise the council that code enforcement has adopted a lot of new codes. Grass, trash and debris, junk. We've updated codes. We are having to train our staff. We don't have that many inspectors. The changes that we've made are going to be felt incrementally over time, but they are out in the field. They are issuing violations. They're processing them. Residents are complying. I mean, we've had 99 of our violations were closed, likely because most people picked them up after they were tagged. We physically can't tag every vehicle in a district in a short amount of time. And this ordinance, you say it had been in place for a while, but really we're talking about May. And since that time, we've been training our inspectors on how to handle hazardous and unsafe buildings in historic districts. We're talking about the new junk vehicle ordinance. We're training the public as well as our inspectors. So I would expect that these impacts in terms of the changes would be felt over the long term, but that we need to measure our expectations today in terms of what we're capable of accomplishing.
Okay, let me just explain something to you. That's about 11 months ago, so it's not just 11 months is a long time. Okay, 11 months. Okay, when you say just, you're talking about 2 months, 3 months. When I'm talking about 11 months, that's almost a year. Okay, so within the year time, I should start seeing some improvement. Okay, if I go to a doctor and he says you just start coming a year ago, I don't see no improvement, I need to change my doctor because I'm not getting any better. I need to see some type of improvement. Okay, and what I'm saying, I'm not seeing any improvement in my area. Okay, so why is it going to take 2 years, a year and a half? Okay, I should see some type of visible improvement. And let me tell you something, I'm more than sure our code enforcement officers are very smart and intelligent. Okay, I can take Ray Charles and let him pass his hand on a vehicle and don't have no tires and Denson, and he can tell you this vehicle got to go. Okay, so I'm not talking about a vehicle that's sitting there, and I understand if they have a brake tag on it, if they have a license tag on it, that's not necessarily what you call a junk vehicle. But when you see a vehicle with the front smash, there's no wheels on it, it's sitting on blocks, that's fit the description of a junk vehicle. Okay, and that vehicle should be tagged. Okay, and I can take you on a ride like I offered you the other day to go on a ride, okay, with me, or send someone in your office, take a trip, and I can show you at least 10 or 12 of those type of vehicles that should have been tagged, that have not been tagged, and if they had tagged one a month, we would at least had 11 of them tagged already, okay, because it's been 11 months. That's the only thing I want to see. When we put these ordinances in place, I like to see some visible evidence that is taking effect and things are getting better, okay? 11 months since it went in place, and where I live at, in the area where I'm at, I haven't seen any visible things changing. Okay, now, some people have in my district. Some people have taken it upon themselves to do that, and I commend those who have done that. Okay, but there's some that's not going to move unless you put something on them, okay, to make a move. And like I said, in my area, visible area, I haven't seen that type of improvement. So I would just, any day you want, okay, and let me ask you one other question. Do you or any one of your staff members ever go out in the district and just take a ride through to see how effective the code enforcement officer is being on certain items, on certain things? Do y'all ever just take a ride through District 3 or just take a ride through District 1 and let's just see, okay, what I see and then go back and compare notes? Well, hey, why you haven't done this? Why you haven't been in this area? Okay, something like that should be done because I don't think it ever happened. Okay, so you don't know, other than paperwork that come in, what's actually being done in the field. So what I'm saying is maybe you or some of your staff members should maybe once a month take a ride in different area to see what's being done. If you can verify, yeah, it wrote that up, well, hell, you're doing a good job. But if I ride through your area and I see 20, 30 different things that haven't been written up, well, that tell me you're not doing a good job or something not working right. So I'm just asking you, do anyone in your office ever take a vehicle and just pick a district by random and take a ride?
We do. We do.
You
We're
do?
regularly in the districts for site visits, for casework, for re-inspections, for final inspections.
I'm
My
not talking about
supervisor-
final. I'm not talking about final inspection.
They're riding through the district. But if you have specific
No, I'm
addresses
asking you a
that
question.
you'd like to send,
No, I ask you a question.
if you would let me finish.
Who riding? No.
Let her finish, Mr. Madden.
Who riding?
Mr. Madden, let her finish.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm responsible for my employees and myself. We work those districts as best as we can. And I don't appreciate the insinuation that we're not out there, because we are. If you have specific addresses that you think we have not addressed, I am more than happy to take those and make sure inspectors go on those sites and write up what is in violation. That's all.
Okay, now let me explain something to you. Okay, I'm not here for a popularity contest. Okay, I'm here for the people in my district. Listen to what I'm saying. Okay, listen to you. Okay, what I'm saying is, do you, I'm not talking about the code enforcement officer, do you or any one of your staff members at any time take a ride through the district to see if those code enforcement officers are doing what they're supposed to do. That's what I'm concerned about, because what I said concerning jump vehicles, if you take a ride anytime, I can show you at least a bunch of them. Now, that's what my concern is, that to make sure that everything that's being done in not just my district, but parish-wide, to carry out the laws that we have on the books. Now, like I said, I need to see an improvement.
Mr. Monitor, just to respond to your question, I'm not sure if you heard Alex, but she did say that more than just code enforcement officers go out into the districts, because there are other things that they're needed to look at, not just the violations. So they are out in the communities. And again, and we're going to ask you guys, when you put us on the spot, or you put items on the agenda with no specificity, we can't respond to you. But if, you obviously have some concerns about some locations or some specific problems that either have been addressed or have not, if you could just get us those addresses, then we can be prepared to respond to you or get you one. It's not to say that they haven't been addressed, and maybe they haven't, but maybe there's an extenuating circumstance. But according to these numbers, at least 99 have been addressed. So they're being addressed somewhere, and I don't think there were 99 written up in Mr. Snyder's district. So they are being addressed, but we can better answer you if we know what properties you're talking about in advance.
Listen.
And again, you can still talk about it at the meeting, but we could give you good information if we know what specific violation or concern you are talking about.
Let me explain something to you, Mr. Bottom. Okay, it's not my job to come to a council meeting and give you addresses or anything. Okay, it's not my job to do that. Okay, my job is to ride in my district and see things. Let me finish. And see things that have not been done. Now, my question was, do they ever, I'm not talking about other things that they do. My specific thing was based on things that I know that the code enforcement officer does. And I don't know everything they do in the office. And I'm not trying to find out everything they do in the office. But what I do know in my district, the code enforcement officer check for grass violation, abandoned houses, abandoned cars. Now, anything else they did check for, I don't know. Anything else they did ride through the parish and through the district for, I don't know. I'm concerned about these 3 items that I know that I see visibly every day. And I'm not going to come to a council meeting and issue out addresses, because then I become a code enforcement officer and I don't get paid for it. Okay? So I'm not going to come here and give you addresses. Okay? All the addresses and things that I'm talking about should be already documented and done. My question was, do you or anyone above, under you, ride through the district and see some of the things I see, and maybe go back and tell you, well, maybe you need to call this code enforcement officer in, because I see a lot of visible things that just not have been done. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Yep. And I'm not going to come here and be a code enforcement officer and give addresses out. That's not my job.
We understand that.
So make sure we understand that. So I'm just asking, and when I offer for someone to come take a ride with me, take a ride.
Okay. I think we got us.
I think we got it.
Reasonable enough to ask if a particular ones you really concerned about, to give it to Alex, and I think we should go from there.
It's just hard to answer if you don't know what you're talking about. And again, we understand your job, Mr. Mader. We understand it's not your job, but you're here asking us about specific violations that we don't have any idea of what you're talking about. So you are concerned. Like the list of violations that you said, should be obvious. We would like to be able to give you a response as to what's happening with it. We can't do that if we're just guesstimating. Now, we all ride, okay? I can tell you, and I'm not a code enforcement officer either. Mm-hmm. But I ride and I see, and I expect my entire staff to ride and see. And when I see, I send a message or I call immediately. And what Alex is saying is more of her staff, they may not be code enforcement officers, but their job requires that they get out. And when they're out there, it's incumbent upon them to look at the same things you're seeing and report them. And that's our expectation. And what she's saying is that happens. There are times when they report things that you may not have or that I may not have seen. And that's the expectation. But we can't respond to your questions without knowing exactly what you're talking about. And again, many of you call in things, okay, that we may not see. Things change quickly. I may have ridden today and it wasn't there. You ride tomorrow and it is. So it's not to say I didn't ride, I didn't see it. It may not have been there when I rode. So if we're going to work together, we're going to ask that if you have a specific address or problem, it would be helpful for my staff to be able to address that, if you could identify the location so they can either do the research, take the site visit themselves, have somebody else go out and look. We use pictures, okay? It is not a requirement that I be at every site, okay? But I ask for, when you're out there, I want to see a picture. Many times a video, that suffices for me. I don't have to go there. You know, I can look at it and make a determination on what needs to be done, but it would be helpful if we knew what addresses you are referencing so she can follow up and either send somebody to do it or provide a response on as to what has been done until now.
Let me just answer Mr. Obama. Let me just answer Mr. Obama on that part. Mr. Obama, okay, I've been on this council 6 years, and I've seen one. I took the code enforcement officer on several rides. Okay, I've been with Miss Carter a couple of times. Okay, I also used to go with Angelique. Okay, I offered her to take a ride the other day. Okay, or someone from her office to do exactly what I just said. Okay, show people some of the problems. I'm not going to come here and issue out addresses at a council meeting. I offered her to take a ride the other day, okay, to show her what I see, okay, for her to take that information back to her code enforcement officer, okay, and she was not willing to take that ride. She said she was busy. Well, send someone else, okay, and then I don't have to come to a council meeting and express addresses, okay.
And you don't have to bring them. You can just
Let
send
me
them to
finish.
us.
So
Just
if
send
she
them to
wanted
us.
to
You don't
take,
even have to discuss it.
wait a minute, if she wanted to take a ride,
She doesn't.
catch it. What?
She does not.
Well, she should, or someone for her should do it, okay? She should, because she worked for this parish,
She
okay?
does.
And you just said that they ride through the parish. So if they ride through the parish, ride through my district, okay? Now, you just send someone through that parish, and I only seen one car. One time, that was last week when I called about a building that was abandoned and someone stole something and put it in. And Christy Muller came out there in the parish truck. First time in 6 years I actually seen someone other than the code enforcement officer. Now they might ride, but they're not riding in District 3, okay? So what I'm saying is, I want someone from that department, either her or someone that have some authority to take a ride, because I'm not giving addresses here, okay? I'll be willing to show you some of the hot spots and some of the bad spots, okay? But get out there, we pay car allotment, pick me up. Mr. Verdell come and pick me up when I want to take a ride somewhere or showing something, pick me up. We pay a car allotment. I can ride in any parish car. When I first got in this office, the first person that was in charge of this department tried to stop me from riding in the parish car. Okay, but any council member can ride in any vehicle that have St. John the Baptist Parish name on it. We covered. So pick me up and I'll show you, and I won't give an address out here.
We'll be waiting for the address.
Mr. Beckner, you got something you want to say?
Yes,
well,
Alice,
you're not
could you,
getting 'em.
I just want to ask you a question. For clarification purposes, I'm glad we're discussing this. Because basically on the West Bank, this is what I'm confronted with every time a vehicle is removed or forcefully removed. Now, the starting point is this. It's based on complaint first, right? That's like, say a particular individual vehicle had to be moved. It started with a complaint, right? So they tagged it, and then they moved it. And I understand they might have had like 90 days or whatever, I don't know how many days. And then when they move it, here's the question I get. And they come in my job, it doesn't matter. They just come and say, hey man, it just took my vehicle and stuff like that. But what about the street across from me with 5 abandoned vehicles? So basically, if nobody complained on them, they won't tag them?
It's a little bit of
I just need clarification from
right.
from our
'Cause
constituents to understand.
There is some prioritization that happens. So, like, if we get a complaint, we respond to the complaint. But we also drive major corridors, right? So, like, we want when people come into the parish and our common roadways to not have violations. So we focus on those major corridors and the complaints. And, you know, typically the people who are complaining, we're getting the response out. Like, they're going. It's the major corridors we have a hard time with because they're big streets, you know.
Okay.
So we do our best to get those under control, but that's going to take time because we're not just applying the junk vehicle ordinance. We're also applying the new sign code, you know, the trash and debris, the junk vehicles. We just demolished over 50 houses in the last year. So all of that casework is on the same 6 or 8 inspectors. So, you know, if you have a street that's a focus that's not on a major thoroughfare you're right. The fastest way to get a violation taken care of is to provide an address to the code enforcement division. And you can make a complaint online. It's very simple. And that explains why we do this on a regular basis, why some streets are getting tickets and others aren't, because your neighbors are complaining, right? So, or you live on a major thoroughfare. So, or you have a business on a major thoroughfare. You know, we try our best.
Okay. All right. So that's all I needed.
Miss Alex, you explained to me, I remember 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that you were working on another ordinance to maybe look at some green space in yards to help. I know it's a different animal with the subdivisions and with some other communities.
Right.
But I was just wondering how you coming on that. Are you still working?
We haven't had time to sit down with that one, but we do know.
You're talking about
it is vehicles.
Cars,
yeah.
vehicles.
But I mean, for legal to weigh in whether or not this is appropriate.
Well, that's okay. It doesn't matter. I just thought maybe it might be.
But I can follow up with you afterward.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. There you go. Pass that back down.
Next on the agenda, Mr. Larry Snyder, update on millage distribution study.
Okay, Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
I think we had talked about this before. I think Ross had forwarded you guys a list of our troubled funds and exactly where we are, which ones were deficit. And we were utilizing that list. And in speaking with Robert, he wants to finalize the 2017 expenditures to compare them with what our revenues have been to make some recommendations. We also need to meet with the assessor who's projecting years out in terms of, you know, what he sees in terms of collections based on people rolling onto the tax rolls or exemptions being removed. So we want to make sure we have accurate information there. And then 2, meeting with our bond attorney to make sure that our debt is covered and how much would be needed to cover the debt. We spoke about trouble funds, animal control, mosquito control, the coroner's office, which is in general fund, but you know, the costs are going up, so it's taking money from other things. Our public safety department, all areas that are required, but there's not enough funding available in their revenue stream to do what's necessary. We also talked about, we thought, because in the upcoming years, we're anticipating one of our larger industries coming onto the tax rolls, that we will have additional money available and may be able to roll back millages in certain areas, may be able to rededicate for these problem areas, but we definitely want to take into account what the ad valorem is going to be in a couple years, so we're not adding mills and then we're going to get a windfall. So that's kind of what we're working on, but he wanted to wait and see exactly what our 2017 expenditures are going to close out as, to know, you know, have a better idea of this is what we're getting, this is how much we're spending on an annual basis, so these are the funds that we really need to look at shoring up, and we are working on that.
I hate windfalls. I can tell you that right now. I hate windfalls. They get in trouble. Especially governments. They get in trouble with windfalls.
Well, we can't.
They don't
By
plan it
law,
right.
we can't have windfalls.
Well, you know what I mean by this. We will have one in 2 more years,
Right.
more or less, and that's part of my concern too. You know, because if everything stays the way it is, there gonna be some fund that will have windfalls.
Right.
You see, and what do we do? Do we got to make some moves after that? So that's why what a time frame we're looking at here? Why can't we go back over a history of what we've got as far as these fund balances from the last 10 years or so, let it make some decision.
We pretty much know our problems.
Ma'am?
We know our problems. He just wanted
I know our problems
okay,
too.
and we
that's
know
why I'm
who
doing,
has
why
a
I'm asking
surplus.
this.
Okay, so we just want to get a recommendation as to how much of a change we would recommend to you. Obviously, we can't do it ourselves. It has to be action by the council. Which ones that we think should be rolled back, which ones might be rededicated again. The people that we spoke about, the assessor, the bond attorney, our our auditors, all kind of give us direction when we make those recommendations to you before we do anything. So we just want to, get all that data together so that possibly moving into the next millage adoption, you will have something. But historically, we kind of know which funds have problems. It's just about how much or what's the number of mills that might be necessary to make this fund solvent, keeping in mind that in 2 years, we'll probably get a windfall. As I shared with you guys at the budget meeting, general fund, we were required to allocate to different departments people who serve more than one department. We used to put employees, for example, if we had 3 accountants, we'd put each one in a fund. Well, we were advised, no, that's not the case. They work with everybody, put them in general fund and allocate the amount of time to those departments. Well, general fund has a larger budget just because we've taken them out of other budgets. What we do know is estimating, even if ad valorem for general fund doubles, it will still be insufficient to cover the cost of running general fund. So that makes us know we have to do something else. Whereas there are other funds, if their ad valorem doubles, they will be good. We will not have a problem with them. And then there are others, if it doubles, we will have way too much funding. And that gives us the opportunity to roll them back. But those are the things that we're working on. And again, without overstepping those 3 entities, to make sure that our debt is covered, that the estimates that we're working off or the projections that we're working off over the next several years are accurate, and that we have a good handle on where our expenditures are to date. Now, we do have some history, but we also know that in certain areas we've had some increases in expenditures and some changes that are not within our control. When things go up, you know, the amount we're spending on them sometimes goes up, but we will have something for you soon.
So you're gonna meet with these entities? Have we contacted them, or are they on the same page with us as far as what are we looking at and what we're trying to do?
I would rather meet with y'all before I met with them to give you an idea. This is what we're looking at. I don't want you to be surprised that we showed up, you know, at somebody's office saying, hey, we're looking at rolling back. I want to make sure this is what you guys want us to do. So we want to present something to you before actually stepping out to any entity to make sure you're aware this is what we're looking at. This is what we're recommending that we do. If you may say, well, you know what, I say roll back, but not that much, or you know what, I'd rather rededicate from here rather than there. So, you know, we'd rather get ourselves on one page before approaching any of the outside entities. But there are some that clearly we need to address, because you're right. I think you're not supposed to collect by law more than you need to operate. And in most cases, that holds true, but there are a couple of places, and definitely moving into the next 2 years, that will be a problem, and it'll give us an opportunity to roll
Is
back.
there a revised statute or an ordinance that we have in place that we should look at this every 10 years or 15 years or 20 years?
We look at it annually.
Annually?
Yes, sir, and we have to bring it back to you guys to approve, and we make
I'm talking about the disbursements of millage.
Yes. Yeah, we look at, you know, what we collect versus what we spend, and then we make a recommendation when y'all adopt them every year. All of those things have been taken into account. We get with the assessor who gives us those numbers, and, you know, annually we make a recommendation and you do an adoption. But I think it's something that we need to look closer at in light of that we're anticipating some additional funds coming up, and here's an opportunity to shore up some of our weak funds, which you guys have done that. You know, we didn't have any money for animal control. We had no money for recreation. We had, you know, you've done a lot of things to help, and some funds are in better shape, but there's others that are still struggling, and they've struggled for years. So we're looking at a good fix that, yes, let's rededicate where we can, roll back where we can, because nobody wants to overtax anybody, especially if you're just banking money in a fund balance. That is not in the best interest of our residents and business owners.
Right, I agree with you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Next on the agenda is also Mr. Snyder. Update on water leak throughout District 4, District 5, 6, I'm sorry, 6. Marking front.
Thank you, Chairman. Councilman, to date, there's 3 outstanding water leaks on our work order list for this district. The utility crews will be working to complete 2 of those this week, and a contractor is scheduled to repair. There's a fire hydrant that needs repair on Cambridge Drive. We're trying to gather up more than just one fire hydrant to get a contractor involved in doing that repair. So there was 6 originally, I think, and some of those have been addressed throughout the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
6?
Yes, sir. And it was a lot of the ones, I looked at the dates on them, a lot of the ones you have discussed previously, you and I, as well as I think here at this council meeting. I'll say that this much, that January was a crazy month for doing anything of normal routine leak repairs based on the weather events and everything we had going. So,
Well, that's one of the reasons why I haven't been too persistent with that.
well,
And
I
understand
appreciate
that
you
we
understanding.
have a lot of
Yes, sir.
problems with this, but it's getting to the point now where these are getting worse.
Yes, sir.
It's gonna cause us some other issues with streets starting to
Sure,
sink and
sure.
things like that, you know, and that's where we got the problem at, you know.
Yes, sir.
Especially one, I think, further down on Cambridge Drive, it's in the middle of the road.
Right.
So I know what's gonna happen in there, we got to spend money on concrete, there's nothing wrong with it now, but, in a few years, if all this keep eating it out, see, that's what I was
we're
concerned about
addressing
that.
it. And, we try to group a lot of those concrete jobs together too.
That's nice.
Because once we start, you know, it's not just the repair of it. Now we got to get a contractor to come in. If Public Works is too busy or doesn't have funding to do our concrete, or it's a bigger job, we typically contract that out. But because ours is smaller than what they typically come to the parish for, once again we group 5 or 6 of those jobs together, get them all fixed, get them prepped, and then that contractor will come through and do 5 or 6 at a time, because the mobilization just for them to come out for a 4x4 square, you know, we're trying to save money on that end as well.
But
So-
there was a couple that I know you started on. One was by the apartment buildings,
Right.
and I mean, you found out that wasn't ours, but they still got a hole there.
Yes.
What do we do in cases like that? Do we have any input on? Do we contact the proprietors and let them know we got an issue over here? And it could be a safety issue.
Yeah, I
It's your
believe they
problem.
were spoken to. I'll follow up on that, but I believe those were specifically spoken to. I also know we're going to repair I think the one by the car wash.
Exactly.
But the one by the car wash, we dug up, found out it's not a water line. So
what kind of line is it? Sewage?
We think it's a drain line, actually, from
Drain
one of the
from-
bays from the car wash that's running under the parking lot. The owner of the business was actually contacted on that one
Okay.
as well. We're doing our best to document it thoroughly this time. So when the concern comes back up and we see water on the concrete again, we go back to our work order and say, hey, look, last time we dug this up, this is exactly what we did and who we told and what we found, so that we're not digging up another patch of concrete to find out once again, 3 years later, it's still a drainage issue that someone else isn't addressing.
Well, they got water coming out of it again. That's why I brought that
So
up.
I don't know if it's when it's rain or if when it's
it's not
just
rain.
heavy use of that. That's what it looks like. I saw a video of that one. They videoed it and cleared out everything around the water line, and the water was coming from from opposite ends of the hole itself. So,
And I see one you're working on it right by the apartment building right now. That it hasn't been leaking, for a while.
Yes, sir.
But I saw some heavy equipment out there. Y'all starting on that?
yeah,
Got
like I
a
said,
dotting on it?
there's an additional piece of equipment that we need to break up concrete,
Yeah.
and we try to do it in the best way we can, so that we're not we don't want to tear it up with a machine, break more things than we need to break. So once we mobilize that equipment to 3 or 4 jobs, we try to take care of them all at once.
Okay, well, that's
But
good.
but yeah, I appreciate your understanding, because it has been a trying first couple months this year with the weather events we
Yes,
had.
sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next on the agenda is also Mr. Snyder. Report on the number of crews qualified to resolve water issue compared to the 4 years ago, and how has it affected productivity?
Yeah, and I think this goes hand in hand, Councilman,
Yeah.
with what we just talked about. But if you don't mind, we'll get into it. The number of crews we have assigned to these tasks, in our opinion, has less to do with the number and the efficiency than actually the attendance and the work production of the current crews we have. I did do some research, and since 2012, there's been 12 staff members in this department that specifically do what we're currently doing. And as of today, we have 1 vacancy in that of those 12 that we're trying to fill currently, which is another equipment operator. To note, half of that staff that was here in 2012 is still working. And in fact, I went back as far as 2008, and at least 6 of the 12 people that in 2008 that were working for this parish doing distribution work is still working for this parish doing distribution work. To stay qualified, I would fully expect that at least half of our crews, or half of our crew is absolutely qualified with over 10 years of experience to do our job.
So we have, if, say, any given day, you have 3 crews out?
Yes, sir.
3 crews out?
Typically, it's 2 full crews and a 2-man crew for, hey, my water meter top is broken, I need a replacement meter, or I need a meter that may be leaking. A smaller job that doesn't require a piece of equipment, we do currently have a crew that's all they deal with on a given day. But we have 2 full crews. That's equipment operators and 3-man crew, or 3-man crews. And then we have a 2-man crew that does it, and then we have locators as well. That does all our painting and everything for all our one calls.
And that covers both
East and West Bank.
East and West Bank?
Yes, sir.
Drinking water and throwaway water?
Just drinking water. That is only for water repairs.
Oh, yeah?
That is only for the list of water repairs that y'all receive every 2 weeks. That's all they do.
And we
have another whole group that checks the 170 lift stations, repairs pumps, finds cleanouts, or locates our maintains our system. So there's 2 crews that are about the same size that do the piping and the field work, and one's for water and one's for wastewater.
And they're pretty much busy every day, I guess, with the leaks we got. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it just take time. You're going to get to those leaks on
We're trying. We're supplementing with when we do have contractors that come in and do other jobs for us. We try to piggyback some of the more difficult, maybe a line's 8 foot in the ground. That's not typically something that takes a lot of our resources away from the day-to-day. So we'll pair that one up with another job that maybe a contractor's coming to do for us, whether that be wastewater or water, just to try to make it more efficient when it comes to the mobilization of getting somebody that has maybe bigger equipment or more safety features, shoring boards and all that kind of stuff that maybe we don't do on a daily basis. We try to do it all at once.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you.
And I know the work order system that we're going to is going to help y'all a whole lot too. We're going to put more information on that so that you don't see the same thing every week, and that it looks like we were maybe not aware of it or working on it, but we really are. It's just not updating on that. The system we have is not effective to give you an up-to-date status of where it's at.
Well, with the new work order system and with the new software we got, we should have no problem with ticklers going out and every so often tickle us about something that need to be checked on here and there. Because like I'm saying, the 2 leaks I know in there is repaired. They've been repaired. One of them been repaired, but it's still a big hole there. It's not on our property. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And we'll as that system comes about, we'll certainly work it and see what we can get report-wise or alert-wise.
Right. I understand that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Foreman, before you sit down, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you said Mr. Snyder thing was relevant to qualified people we have working, crews.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you have 2.5 crews, right?
Currently.
Okay.
Yes, typically 3.
So the 2 full crew, how many individual is that? 4 per truck?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
1 on a piece of equipment and 3 in the truck.
Okay, 3 in the truck. Okay, and I'd ask for this, not just for your department, parish-wide, because I've been saying myself, I just think we don't have enough people working for the growth of this parish. I've been saying that. And what's a little confusing to me is Mr. Reed Alexander took a ride with me through my district to show him some of the concerns, like I offer code enforcement, okay, to take a ride, and we went and point out certain areas, okay, and then within that week time, those areas was taken care of, and some of those particular areas had been on the repair list for months, okay, and then after we took that ride, it was taken care of within a matter of 3 days. So my concern is, do we take a ride through district to make sure these things get done on a timely manner? Because one of the leaks on 23rd Street, we went to 23rd, we went to 14th. Several months ago, you told us not to call you or Reed, to call the office. And I made those calls to the office, and those particular leaks, I called before Thanksgiving. Those particular leaks that I called before Thanksgiving just recently have been taken care of within the week after we took that ride. So my concern is, what seemed to have been the problem with that?
I think there's a number of, I can't speak on your specific situation, but I've seen over time, there's many issues with the way the work order system currently is. We have 40-something calls on the list right now. We addressed over 300 over the freeze events. I'm not able to put eyes on every one of them, but we fully expect that when someone submits information saying a job is complete, it's complete. What we're seeing in different times is they're saying it's a customer leak, so they take it off the list. Someone like yourself would bring it up again, and we'd put it back on the list. And then y'all maybe would take the ride and say, okay, this isn't a customer leak. This is actually a leak that we need to repair, or vice versa. And so I think what we're seeing is repetitive calls that are maybe being taken off the list for one reason or another, and then being still open issue. And I will say, you know, in Councilman Snyder's issue on the car wash, that's always going to come back up, and we're always going to have to send somebody back out there because one of us or somebody new is going to call it in as a new leak and not know the history of that site itself. So we are trying to address those, and we appreciate the information because I'm not asking you to do anyone's job, but as I can't make it to every one of those sites, that type of information allows me to do the research in office and address that situation so it doesn't happen again.
Right. I'm just concerned because, like I said, you know, it was about 3 months ago when you told us to call the office.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I called that office the week before Thanksgiving, and I said it was a major leak down 14th Street, and that leak was not taken care of till 2 weeks ago. So that's the concern I have. Okay, I did exactly what you said. Called the office, spoke to the secretary, told there was a major leak on 14th Street. It was not taken care of until 2 weeks ago. So that's the concern I have. Okay, and I hope my district is not the only one I hope my district is the only one having that problem. We shouldn't be having that problem. That's what I'm saying. Something I called personally before Thanksgiving, and it just got fixed 2 weeks ago. So that's my concern.
And I completely agree. It is a concern, but I will say this now, that if you call it in our office, it's documented properly, and if it's taken off the list as being complete, and it's not, it gives me the ability to address that situation specifically. If you call me and I forget, then it's just you and me never putting it on a list, never being documented, and someone else is responsible to take that off the list by assuring that it's complete. That is the way the job works. If it's never called through the office, it's never put on that list, and there's no accountability for it to be completed, other than you and I. So that's why I do ask that, is it when it runs through the process, when I find an error or find an issue, we can address those specifically with that group of employees that did it. Okay. I will.
Next on the agenda is also Mr. Snyder. Okay. Resolution for customers on obvious water bill error by the parish.
And Councilman, I think this kind of was alluded to earlier. Without specific information, I can't address that specific request or issue. However, I will say that staffing in the department has been adjusted to try to better address concerns with the residents. Customers can either call in or come by, as they have been in the past, to discuss any billing concerns. The department is continuing to try to address billing issues in the most legal and consistent manner we can across the board. I know you and I have had specific conversations about that as well. The reference to being a bill in error, I will say on my end, since I've been involved, I haven't seen an outright error, meaning a typo or something input wrong, or we talk about spike bills. I haven't seen a spike, so say that this malfunction in electronics. I haven't seen it, and I'm not saying nothing. I'm speaking since November, December of my involvement. But we're making changes every day to try to continue to address the ever-changing concerns that people call in.
Address the estimate issue as a problem.
The estimate, I mean, and one of them that's coming in, that's a recent one, is continued estimation, and then getting an actual read. I know with the CFO, as well as one of y'all fellow council members, unfortunately is not here today, but was in the office just last week questioning how we're going to handle that moving forward. What we're seeing is that if it is overestimated or underestimated, when an actual read is read, it looks to be a spike, but it actually is just the full consumption through that estimation period. What the problem with it is on the overestimates, if we overestimate someone, we can see that and make that adjustment. On an underestimate, what the unfortunate part is, it's a high bill because it's been underestimated throughout that process. Again, it's new problems present itself on a daily basis with every solution that we try to create and move forward with. Obviously, we're trying to mitigate that moving forward into the new system. I mean, that's where we're trying to get to.
Mr. Maria, can I add to that on the estimate?
Yes, and
That is a problem, and I think one of the residents addressed it as a problem. We are looking back, and that is the case. You know, if you're estimating or averaging over several months, and so they're high several months, then when you do the actual reading, sometimes there's a difference. But what I've directed them to do is go back and look at the history. So if you've estimated and all of a sudden the average is way higher than their average for the last 12 months, then we need to make an adjustment related to what their actual history shows, because the actual computer is doing the estimating, and it may take into account a high bill or an overestimation and then several overestimations, so now you had a high number. So there's some benefit to utilizing the history. What we're not finding and we can't do is when it's underestimated you, and we go back and find the history, and that is significantly lower than what your bill should have been, then you have to pay. Just like we have to credit you when the estimations were way higher than what it should have been, we need to make a credit or an adjustment that is consistent with your use. But the same thing occurs if it's been underestimating you, and when we do the actual reading, we can see that actually it should have been higher, then you may get a higher bill. So we are looking at those individually. Just, you know, for informational purposes, we are not allowed to just give away water, which you guys know that. But the problems are more related to this estimating, and which we need to stop. And I think it's my understanding that they're not estimating the same cycle. So if you estimated this half of your cycle, you need to read it next time. So we're not having this accumulation of estimated readings. However, we're having some issues, and I know you just discussed with Blake his personnel. I can tell you some of your fellow council members can attest to some other problems with regard to personnel. We do what you guys ask us to do, and what we should do, which is monitor, and then we suspend, and then we fire, and guess what? The next group just does the same thing. You know, I've said it from the beginning, and I feel very strongly, and it is not all about the mechanisms. Some of it is personnel, and we continue to find that out. And we address it as it occurs, but how does that help us? So I caught 3 of y'all not working. So 3 of y'all get to go home for 3 days. Well, now we're 3 people down trying to catch up. And it's ongoing. We terminated 2. You know, it is ongoing. There's absolutely no excuse for the situation we're in, and we continue to get information that suggests that it is not just equipment; it is personnel, and it doesn't matter how many crews you have if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and tracking them and personnel discipline is almost a full-time job. It's almost a full-time. I mean, we cannot possibly get to doing the work that we're supposed to be doing because we're constantly tracking, trying to follow all the rules with the discipline and the writing up and making sure that it's accurate. And, you know, we do an investigation before we assign any discipline, but it is problematic for us, okay? It's problematic for us. And it results in a problem for our residents, our business owners. It's a problem for you all, but it's a big problem for us. And some of it is iffy, but some of it is clear cut. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
I think, Ms. Robert, you see the big picture, and I got to admit that, okay? And I hear you, I really do. And I agree with you. As far as not all equipment, it's not all computers, it's not all averaging, it's all estimating. And I've said it before, and I think we've found where we're at. We have to discipline some people for not doing their job. But there are some good people out there that are doing the job. You know, very, very good job. And I can call some names. I don't think it'll be fair here, but I see some people in the public works. I know they do an excellent job. You know, and they got pride in what they do. And they got some just want to make the day pass. You know, I understand that. And I'm not saying they come from public works, don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is this, is that when a lady, who's 80 years old called me and said, my bill this month is $120, $130. It's never been that. I live by myself. I don't wash. I don't even drink the water. I wash every 2 weeks or something like that, And now it's $120. I called my daughter who got 5 people in the house, and they're $60.
Right.
You see? So what do you tell a person, a lady like that? What can I tell her? I said, well, look, she said, they say you got a leak. She said, I went and got a plumber. The plumber came, wrote it up, no leaks. Now she had to go pay for a plumber. Now anybody can go check for a leak, you just got to look at the meter, if the meter's working. So what I'm saying is that, what do we do with her? What do you do with her?
Individually, it would have to be
individual.
somebody would either have to speak to her on the phone and pull up her account history, see what's what, and then answer that question from there.
Right.
It is an individual basis. I mean, we're seeing that conversation has happened numerous times, more than I can count. And then you go in and look, and every case is different. There's no generic case. There's not in what I've looked at. There's no generic case. It's getting the full story, getting it in front of you with the account history and everything, and then addressing it from there.
And I've been a
Obviously,
little
the
more
immediate
liberal.
thing is go check for leaks. That is the immediate. But you have to. If we don't say go check for leaks, then and it happens again and it happens again and it happens again, then you should have told me there was a leak. I'm not saying you had to go call a plumber. Not saying, but the initial response is if you see a high bill, there should be, and there's nothing in that account that says there should be one.
Right.
Then it's an outside influence. If there's something in that account history that showed that there's a potential, maybe it was estimated for a couple months, and then that next bill was higher. That's a whole different conversation specifically about that case. And unfortunately, I've been part of meetings, I've been part of phone conversations, and everyone I've addressed has been a different case. There's
I'd
not
like to
been.
walk you through what they actually do. And I'm
So
seeing the same thing with you. On my end, I'm more liberal. Go back and pull first of all, I don't even want to talk about a case unless you pull the history. Don't call me. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is pull their billing history. 18 months of, this is how much water I use. This is how much I've used over this amount of time. You can see what the consumption is quickly, and I want it all. And I can look at it and see when it's different. And that's what their job is to go back and look. And when we've had situations where we can't quite figure it out. Same thing that you're saying. I'm not home. I don't use this water. My bill's never been this high. So we send people out to pull the data out of the computer. And to be honest with you, the few that I've looked at have been spot on. And it actually identified a problem that was happening with the pool. This person who doesn't live here was here and said, okay, at this time, I can look at it by hour. You use 70 gallons of water. Oh, I was taking a shower. Okay, nothing. At this time, there's a big draw, 30 gallons of water. Oh, you're right, I came back home and washed. It can get you down to that point. Now, what happens, and I've asked Curtis and Blake too, let's not argue over this. If historically that is what your bill is, there's no leak, there's no problem, well then, it makes sense that that's what your bill should have been. The issue with minimal billing, same thing. That brought up a whole nother problem. If I read your meter for 40 days instead of 30, it's likely you're not under the minimal bill issue anymore. But guess what? You've had a minimal bill your entire life. Make the adjustment, okay? That is not their fault that we took 40 days to read the bill. You make the adjustment. This is somebody who's been on a minimal bill for their entire life. Well, then their bill should be minimal. You don't penalize them because our people took too long to read. That's our fault, okay? But some of that other stuff is not that clear cut. People like that, we need to speak with them. And again, we don't expect that somebody who typically had a minimal bill is going to come in and pay $120 for a bill. That just doesn't make sense. Now, we do send people out. We do ask you to check. And, of course, I get tired of hearing it, too. Check for a leak. There's something that grates on your nerve, and that's one of those comments that I get that grates on my nerve. Do you have a leak? Okay, and I know that's part of the protocol. You have to do that because many times that is what the problem is, whether it's a toilet leak or a gasket leak or something like that can actually, cause some of these problems. So that is protocol, but it's not always the cause. And sometimes we got to get out there, and we do, and we send people out, and I do look at the data. I don't make any decisions about anybody's bill without getting the history, and they know it. Don't Don't come to me with a solution to something that I can't see the history. And then we try to rationalize through it and see, you know, what happened, try to do a fix, and we want to treat people fairly. It's just, it's a problem. Part of the problem is, and it bothers me too, because I call too. If I can't get an answer, I know y'all not getting an answer. If I ask for something and I don't get a response within a timely manner, I can imagine what they're doing to you guys. Okay, so that's a problem for me. And so we met as a team to try and restaff, reassign, because what's happening is Curtis is the supervisor. Okay, so he's, you know, we're trying to send him out to verify and validate, but then he can't take the calls that's coming to him in his office, because I sent you out, you know, to verify something in the field. So we're adding some additional staff. We're changing how that process works. We're trying to utilize someone to pull the data for him. So, you know, a decision can be made. You don't have to be the one in the computer pulling all the history and look, you know, somebody with that who won't make the decisions can pull that and have it ready for you to review and make a decision, just to try and expedite it. But the other thing that we're having is a lot of these estimated issues. And we know we did what was necessary at the time and what was recommended, but it caused a whole nother set of problems by estimating people's bills. But we did, you know, what was recommended. It cannot be long-term. It was never meant to be long-term. It's gonna result in a problem, and in the end, we have to use good judgment in adjusting accordingly to what the history calls for.
You just mentioned the fact that if this input, and this input is normal, then it should have this output.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense to me. That makes sense. So why don't we give some people authority to be able to do that, and tell them those inputs and what the output should be, instead of having everything funneled back to all the departments, back to you to make the decision.
And we're working on that as well. I think for the most part they do. I don't
They don't
know
all
if
come to
it's
me.
clearly. Yeah, I don't believe it's
But
all
when
clearly
it does,
defined.
it's a problem.
There's certain specific situations that we're trying to make decisions on that path forward, so that people in the staff positions can handle those. But putting them out there, and I think for a long time, you know, again, just my speaking on me being involved, there was a lot of unsurety on the way to go forward based on who told them what to do. In whether it be just normal staff position, supervisor position, there was a lot. There wasn't a lot of sure footing, and I think it was from a clear-cut path forward to say we're going to stand behind this decision on how we handle everything, and we're going to move forward because it's the best way, the most you know, upfront way to handle each and every constituent as they come through. We're working on putting some of those on paper because I see the question marks that are coming to me from staff members. I will say we've started tracking a lot better with the changing of the staffing positions to try to funnel calls to like a call service is basically what it is. They take the information, even if they can't give them an answer, it's getting all the information ready so that the response can come back out. With that, we're seeing that over our half of the calls that come into the office that tie up people speaking is either requesting a balance, is online password resets, or where's my bill. So on our end, what I'm going to try to do is with better communication or better information distribution, eliminate those calls coming from to a person. So now that's if I get 60 calls in a day, and 30 of those are about things that I can do through an automated phone call, or I can look on this place, or then it doesn't need to be to Curtis or to Norma or these specific staff members that need to be handling your situation that you brought up. Like, that's what they need to be dealing with on a day-to-day basis, not about what my balance is or how do I reset my online password. So we're trying to do a better job of categorizing that and eliminating those from the call log so that more people can be assisted with the issues that are up front.
Are we refunding people or crediting people?
Crediting people. And I know that discussion over the last year and a half has been had here many times. I don't know that I don't know that there's a specific ordinance or policy written. Everything says credit. Everything that I've used to go by says credit.
So if someone comes to us before they pay the bill, we get a chance to
fix it first.
Yes.
Before they
to
pay
adjust it.
Yes.
Have
And
to
that's
come
the best.
before.
Yeah,
the
and
best
that's why
way.
we're trying to streamline that process to allow them to, when they see their bill before paying it and it becoming already in the system, freeing up people enough to handle that situation and try to get better at a timely response to handle that before that due date comes up and penalty. if we can catch it before then, and I know a lot of times they're trying to catch them as they see some very outrageous bills. I don't know that they'll necessarily catch a 60 to 120, but I know there's been some bills that have spiked a lot more than that based on certain situations. And I think that's the one they try, but I mean, that's 17,000 bills in a given month that they have to try to sift through. There's no program that is set up for that.
And you're not sure whether it's a spike bill. Could be a personnel problem.
Could be it could, I mean, they check and double check on the rereads. I do know that, a lot of times it's, you know, and this month with water leaks, I know a lot of times it is leaks. And unfortunately, I know we don't want to hear it, but, there are certain situations.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
Ms. Otar, before you said I had a citizen that wanted to say something, if you don't mind.
I don't want anybody to take this personal.
Before you start, identify yourself, please.
My name is Justin Lopez. Please, what I'm about to say, don't take personal. When I was a kid, my father used to tell me, excuses make a person look weak. And what I'm not going to stand here and let anyone do to me is put their hands over their eyes and tell me I can't see. Now, personally, I'm a stickler for my bills. Y'all keep mentioning the word spike. Spiking to me is when I don't get a bill in 30 days. Anything over that is a spike. Don't worry about no water leaks. A spike is anything over 30 days. I have the right of expectation, which is a 30-day bill, just like any other utility company. I need a bill in 30 days, number one. Number two, in this process, I've received 2 disconnect notices without receiving a bill. I have bills set up 5 years in a row. I took those bills and brought them here because I know the first thing they're going to look at was my past history. So I let them look. First thing he noticed that I never missed a payment. Because I pride myself, just like a lot of residents here, you pride yourself on paying your bills so that when you have to come into the office, it's on your side because you have a history, and that's what we're talking about today, a history. Now, I heard Ms. Robotham speak about getting new meters, and it dawned on me, at what point did the system break? It was working, and all of a sudden, it was broke. And like anything else, if your car breaks, you get it fixed. If you have a problem with it, you get it fixed. All of a sudden, it was broken. It was working, then it was broke. And my question is, okay, did they deliberately break it so that we could spend money on updating our system? I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but I'm saying to myself, it was working. And at what point did it go bad? And why can't we fix it prior to getting a new system in place?
Can't answer. No, say no, sir. You're correct. It seems like it came all at one time, but based on the initial meter installation, there was a 10-year warranty. And prior to the 10 years, there started to be some failures in some of the registers. So they were changing, and the replacements were prorated. So that had been going on for a couple of years. And they were keeping pace with some of the change outs a lot better. But as they got closer to the 10-year, the failures started to occur more, and they couldn't keep pace. So we tried some other things initially by doing some overtime assignments, because in the event it couldn't electronically read, we needed manual
Are we
reads.
talking staff here? Because
We're talking staff. They were sent out, originally I think we had 2 staff members. We upped it to 6 or 8. However, the piece that was missing, Justin, was the maintenance piece. Throughout the entire system. While the meters and the registers have expired. They expired 2 years ago in August. So the
they
failure
still
rate.
work. They still work, right?
If you can read them, but they don't all work. So more than half of them, you can't ride down the roadway and pick up your signal. So that means somebody has to get out and read it.
Okay.
So because they were behind, and our initial attempt of providing overtime to get them caught up did not work, and it did not. We were
So you
assured.
need to hire more personnel?
And we did. We hired more personnel. We put them out there. We fired 2 who, even after all this was going on, they were not doing their job. So again, we've been working on something that we didn't have an overall plan for the failure in the 10 years after the meters were
Let me just
purchased
say
and
this here.
installed.
I'm gonna sit down. I've read meters in the city of New York for 3 years. We're talking the city of New York. And we read these meters on paper. We had to do it by paper, by hand. You had to go into basements. You had to go wherever there was a meter to read it. And we read them. And we're talking the size of the city of New York. And every month, see, my only concern is this: the right of expectation. I'm entitled to get me a bill every 30 days. Not 40, not 50, not 60, 30 days. That's what I'm entitled to. That's the contract with the parish when we signed up for utilities. Just like any other utility company, they send me a bill every 30 days, and that's what I expect the parish to do without excuses. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Ojo? Oh, okay.
Richard Marino, 1209 Carrollwood, LaPlace. The problem started in November of 2015. A parish employee that was back in the water department, he left. And since then, the bills have never been the same. My problem is they changed my meter. I got a big bill. Now all of a sudden it went back to where it was before. 2 people living in a house, and it was just a flat rate. For years, I have family members that have 5 years back that only paid flat rate with 2 people in the family. I've gone and personally read water meters for the town of Gramercy when I was 25 years old. The whole town read them with a book and walked. And we can't get it straight. My problem this month is I get a bill on the bottom, it says 30 days. Consumption, 48. When do I get the 12 then? And this bill is outrageous again. I had a rental property across the street. This man was working at Marathon. When they finished that job, the company sent him to Lake Charles. His wife was by herself from Sunday afternoon until late Friday. He was getting bills for $85 and $95 a month while he was working in Lake Charles. The system is broke. Since November of 2015, and we still don't know how to fix this problem. If you worked for any other place, they'd fire you. Thank you.
Ms. Ocho?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, and maybe we need some clarity on this because we keep saying estimates. And I remember at a few meetings ago when it was a big, it was the concern over estimates, and I remember even saying, no, we're not supposed to be estimating, we're supposed to be averaging, and even Curtis said, oh, well, it looks confusing because we had already used the A for actual, so we had to use an E, and I said, well, why don't we use a V? So I've heard estimate all day today, so now I'm even more confused because we clearly said that we were not estimating, we were averaging, and even at the time that we said we were going to average, I said that would be a problem because if you do average in all 18 bills and there was a leak or a spike on month 1 and now you average that into my bills, well, you're still giving me a bill that's higher than normal. So the first question is, are we now estimating as we said that we were not doing? Because we've said estimate all day today.
I can only speak on my involvement, and since I've been involved in my understanding of that program is estimating those bills. And whether it's confusing or it's not, there is no program unless we're manually doing average.
Do you all remember the meeting when we clearly said,
I-
or
I-
Curtis said, we're not estimating?
I
It's
absolutely
just
do.
that we only could use the A once, and so we had to
Isn't that
use
what
an
they do, though?
E.
I think it's a
It's an average.
conversation.
It actually is an average of all the bills.
'Cause we
So
said
they use-
estimate.
Right,
But I mean,
but
it
that's
takes
the term,
history into
yes.
account. I mean, it's not
But those are
just
two different
arbitrarily
things. An estimate is not an average. So are we
Right.
estimating or
No,
are we
it's
averaging?
an estimate based on 18-month usage.
So at the time of the council meeting, and we'll pull the minutes, which it wasn't that long ago, when we said that we were not estimating, that we were averaging, that was not factual?
I wasn't involved in that.
Is that not true?
That,
Is that not true? Do they not take all the bills and average, and that's how your next bill's computed? Yes, that's what they do.
That's what I'm saying. An average is not an estimate. I know the difference. An average is not an estimate. I want to know right here again, are we estimating or are we averaging? Because it was a big conversation several months ago, and I even said, Curtis, change the letter, because he said, no, we're not estimating, we're averaging. And I said, why don't you change the letter to a V? You know, that's the second letter of average. I mean, it was 2 hours worth here. So before I proceed, I want an
Just a
answer. Are we
combination.
estimating or are we averaging? That's it. I just want one word. Are we estimating or are we averaging? It's not. No, it's not the same thing. An estimate is a guess.
No.
Yeah. An estimate is a guess.
It's an estimate based on your 18-month average.
Then, okay, then that.
Do you
that-
understand what I mean? You know,
No.
it's not, it may not be your actual reading, because it's based on an average. Okay,
historical
so,
data.
on your historical data.
However, but when it's 5
And
months of
again, it does
estimating,
include
it's gonna be higher,
spikes,
so
and
then
it
they're
does
trying to take an
include
average of
leaks,
that as well.
which is a problem.
So we're
handling that
taking
individually when it
18
doesn't
months or
include
6 months, and we're adding those numbers and dividing by that. We're getting an average.
Hold on. We can't have any outside people unless you're up to the
I
mic.
just want to understand, right, how we're coming to the numbers. What are we doing then? Maybe explain the process.
Actually, the computer does it. So it just takes what's in their records, and again, I think what we've all acknowledged is when there's a spike, when there's a leak, all of that's included in that average, which might make your estimate higher than your typical bill, which is a problem. So by the time we read it, you'll get an actual number that may not be what the estimate is. So those are the cases that we're saying we got to get back and look at their history, and you have to look at it. You can't just average. You got to see, okay, well, yeah, this included a spike, or so you can manually complete it, but the computer won't. It's just going to average all the numbers that it has. But if you go back and look at it and say, well, you know what, this was when you had a spike that we couldn't account for, and we changed your meter. So you can take that out manually, but the computer won't take it out because they don't know what caused the increase. But
Any kind of leak adjustment.
yeah.
How are we let me ask you this, how many months is the computer set to calculate, to add, and then divide by the number of months? How many months is the computer actually
I
doing
can't answer that without going into the program itself.
Is it
I'm
eight?
not gonna give you.
Okay.
I'll research that. And
It's either
absolutely get
18 or
back with you.
12.
Okay, and then how do we know, or when do we actually use that versus an actual read?
When we can't actually read it.
Okay, and also, I specifically asked at several meetings, and I haven't received any of this information, and we've talked about the new system. And I remember prior to us even having this system, we had manual readings.
Yes.
And we had, maybe one or two, I don't remember how many, but
Two. I can help you.
and they read all of the meters. And so I asked, I said,
And you got
what-
your bill in 30 days.
and what I said also was that I don't want this council to be put in the same situation we're in, and the residents in the same situation. Do we need to go back to manual reading? Because if we invest in a system that is very costly to maintain, costly to keep up, and we can't afford to do it, then 10, 15 years down the line, we'll be in the same situation. And what I asked for at the time was side-by-side comparison to the council. Do we just need to go back to a manual read instead of investing in a vehicle that we can't afford the maintenance on? And it's just that simple. I think of it as buying the most expensive car because you can afford that car, but as soon as something breaks, you can't afford the part on it. And we are in a financial situation, St. John Parish, we're not as well heeled maybe as St. Charles or New Orleans and Jefferson, which St. Charles is still for the most part manually reading. And so why do we want to continue to invest in costly systems that we can't afford to maintain? Because when it breaks, the the persons that suffer are the people that we take the oath of office to represent. So it's contradictory to what we're supposed to be doing. And I haven't received that information because I'm not bought or sold on just getting this new expensive Cadillac of a system if I know 10 years down the road I'm going to have my future counterparts sitting here with the same problem and residents sitting here with the same problem. I've gotten a disconnect notice without getting a bill, and so I want to see the numbers. I want us to be able to make an informed decision. We keep saying we're going to borrow this millions of dollars and hopefully get loan forgiveness, and we've never really taken a real honest gut check and say, should we go back to manual reading? I have not seen that information. I want to be provided with that information. I know we have some personnel problems.
Can
We
you give
need
me
to
the
address that.
clarification on, we did look into it, but I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
I want it on paper. I want to know what it's going to cost us over 10 years to do manual reading and what it's going to cost over 10 years with the system. Whether the manual reading, it's 2 employees with benefits, what it's going to cost side by side so that we can see over 10 years.
What it would
Because
be.
we knew with manual reading, we got bills, it was 30 days, it was on time. Now, all of a sudden, if the system's breaking, maybe it is a red flag. Maybe it is a sign. Hey, you can't continue to keep doing what you're doing and expecting something different to happen. And if these are systems we can't afford to maintain, because if we invest in another new high-dollar system, guess what? Something's going to break. And it's just like these iPhones. You break it, and guess what? You got to buy a new one. That's how they make them these days. And so, can we afford to maintain the technology? And we should look right next door at St. Charles Parish. Their budget is almost 3 times what we have, and they still read manually.
And Councilwoman, I'll absolutely put the numbers from an operational standpoint. One of the biggest differences, they never stopped. They never stopped reading manually. And I know that's an initial investment, but I can tell you since 2006, when everything was running hunky-dory, I'd say 60 to 70 to 80% of the meters are 3 foot underground. So when you ask for somebody, whether it be today, yesterday, or at the start of this, to go back to a manual read, there was a significant amount of work from a contract level, a parish level, or whatever, to invest into even trying to find every meter to get it back on track to do that. I actually have been spending some sleepless nights. I found some of the old drawings where it was the routes. And that's where we're going. I am poring over drawings to try to make these routes. If I need to walk a route, I can. But
And
I
they
gotta
and
get
they
it
can.
there.
The difference is previously the system that was in place, they would download the information into a system which we no longer have that equipment. They used to read the meters and some little handheld device, come back to the office, download it into the billing system. Well, that no longer exists. So now it would be reading paper. Now, again, keeping in mind, I was here too. So I've been saying from the beginning, and it was before Raymond left, that they started to have the problem. The way he was dealing with it was he was having them go out and replace, but they just couldn't keep up. So he was aware that they were starting to have failures, came up with a plan to try and address it, but they couldn't keep up because the failure rate increased significantly and they couldn't keep up. But I've said from the beginning, it's personnel, because we were here when 2 people read the meters and you got your bill on time. And now we've gone to 6 or 7 or 8 with trucks and electronic equipment, and let's say half of them can't be read. Well, the other half should be able to manually be read. We put together a schedule. Not that I want to be this engaged in it, but we went to St. Charles Parish. How many meters can your people read in a day? And we calculated based on numbers, put together 2 cycles, to even it out, assign people to those routes, because one, you need to know your route. You don't need to be changing every month. This is your route, so you ought to know which meters don't read. So you ought to know which ones you need to manually read. We assign somebody to them to follow up and do the manual readings if it didn't pick up electronically. Now, keeping in mind that it's kind of inconsistent, but at least you know the one that's not going to read. All of those things have been in place. We've hired additional people, and again, there is no excuse. Who is the excuse person? There is absolutely no excuse to be in this situation at this point in time. We had another meeting. Again, I've said it from the beginning, it's personnel. It's personnel. And I'm not accepting anything other than that. I said it when the previous manager was here. Nobody believed me. They kept investigating. They kept trying to add more people. They kept trying to give overtime. It is personnel. And as of Friday, we know where our personnel was at 2 o'clock in the day with 2.5 hours left to read meters and they weren't reading. So you tell me why you can't get your bill in 30 days. Okay, that's why you can't get them. And again, the turnover rate is high. The training level, they're listening to the same thing you're listening to. They were here when the TV stations were here. They're here when our residents are complaining. They don't do what they're supposed to do. So again, I'm not looking for any more people. I told y'all that before. I don't want any more. I don't want any more. I want the ones that we have to do their job. And that is it.
And I would say that's probably why there's apprehension to going back to a manual read because of the personnel that we have. But I still want to see on paper the numbers, because if it requires us to modify the job description so that we can attract maybe, I don't know, better, and right, people that we can hold more accountable, then that's what we need to do. But we have to be able to make a good decision with hard numbers on how we're going to move forward and fix this problem. And I don't want to have the apprehension all because we know we've got personnel issues. I know, I got the pictures Friday at 2 o'clock of where all the meter readers were. It wasn't reading meters, all of them. So I know we have a personnel problem, but that's something that we also can put our heads together and say, do we need to modify those job descriptions so we can attract a better employees that or contract or something. I don't want us to be in this situation again, and I don't want us to be to feel like the council won't come together and say, okay, yeah, we know we need to make some employee modifications. We need to make some modifications to the job description.
We should be able to get that data, even just from other parishes that read. Like, okay, you have 2 meter readers. We already compared the number of meters they were reading walking versus what ours were reading driving. So we've already started that comparison, actually made a visit there. Now, of course, it's slightly different in their areas that are more densely populated. Those are the ones they walk, where they can just go house to house, versus the ones that are in rural areas, well, those they ride, which makes sense. But those were the numbers we originally used to calculate that we felt very comfortable. And again, that's me. I'm a paper person. How many meters we have, how many meter readers we have, how many routes we have, how many cycles. This is the number of meters, and what we calculated based on an average amount and giving you 3 or 4 days of rain. They should have been able to read every meter and have time to go make up days that they missed and still get the bills out in 30 days. Okay, so there's really not an excuse. There is no excuse. And again, we continue to find the same things that we found on Friday. They are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Therefore, these bills are not getting out. It's causing more of our time spent on trying to adjust to issues rather than trying to come up with a system that works, because we're constantly, now again, that's what, 6 people, 7 people is going to have to go through the disciplinary process or some kind of process? Okay, well, that's going to take us away from what we're supposed to be doing, because we have to deal with that, and we are going to deal with it.
Can I just get those 2 things, the side-by-side comparison, and even include if we had to amend some of those job descriptions and move them up on the pay scale so that we can maintain, a better workforce in that area, so that we can make a good decision going forward. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, when you finish.
There we go. The analog system, how much longer do we have for that thing to live?
The analog, that's
Right, because we have the Bluetooth, which is dying at some...
analog. I mean, the manual read, it's a mechanical meter.
That's mechanical, so it's going to work forever.
Well, I mean, accuracy, it over time, it loses accuracy in favor of the resident, the way the wears down and everything. But yeah, it would read.
But we did test them for a significant amount of money, and they're at 93% accuracy.
Yeah.
Like, they're at a high accuracy rate. So it's not
But
there
as long,
right now.
as long as they're not compromised internally, they spin. So as long as the water's flowing through it, they spin.
Explain, now, roughly how many how many meters do you have to read manually?
I think there is, if I understand correctly, and again, it varies month to month, and cycle to cycle, but I think there's close to 9,000 right now, the last number that I recall, out of 16, 17,000.
Okay. Now, the data log, explain to me how you use the data log.
If the electronics in the meter is still operating, we're able to go and pull that meter, which stores up to, depending on what you ask it for, it stores up to the hour by hour water flow through that meter, which is, again, it's all electronic based. So once that meter is no longer battery life is working, you can't do that.
All the data's lost.
Correct.
So,
And so, I mean, you can't go forever back, but I mean, if I go to an hour, I might be able to get a month and a half, maybe 2 months. If I ask it for every day, you can see differences in days, and you can go further back because you can get more data points. But it allows you to see normal usage versus anything else that maybe is kind of going on at the home. And it's actually helped. I mean, it's a benefit, and it was a benefit at the time. You know, it helped identify some concerns in a lot of areas. But it has to be, once again, it had to have been maintained properly throughout the life of it, so that we had meters that were operating in that way. And currently, when we do address certain specific addresses that are taking a lot of effort, we go and change those meters out. We're still changing meters out to give us better, the register and everything. We're just having to do it on a case by case because we're moving to, the idea of moving to a whole new system. I don't want to go out and buy 9,000 brand new meters at an exorbitant amount of money when we're about to invest, take them out of the ground.
Friday, after spending a good 3 hours in a meeting with management to try and establish a system to better respond to our residents, and to find that the reason, or part of the reason, you can't tell me that's not part of the reason why bills aren't getting read, that you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And there was a significant amount of time spent not doing what they were supposed to be doing by a significant number of people. And the only one that wasn't there was with the manager, or he'd have probably been there too.
Now, Mr. Steiner, answered you, one of your, something you brought up is, we had a conversation, how long ago was that? Yes, 2 days ago?
I don't remember, Council.
Geez, I remember. All right.
Well, I don't know what
so
day it was.
This could be a problem
We spoke
here,
on a
okay?
couple-
Short-term memory, but no,
No,
it's all
no.
kidding. No,
Right.
but one of the things that we spoke about was his staff.
Oh, yeah. I don't know when that was, but I recall the conversation.
Yeah, it was, but his staff and having them have the authority to analyze bills and correct those here instead of having to sit around and wait for it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that was clear direction.
Haven't heard back from them yet,
Right.
but we did have a long conversation.
Yes, sir. I think
So-
it's more of clear direction from management and the stance of where we are.
Yeah.
That's communication to you all on how we go forward. I think that's a big one. Y'all do speak to people out in the community, and we want y'all to have a clear understanding of our path forward to assist us and assist
Because
the
some of that's
residents in a
different
tough
too.
time.
Like
Yeah,
different council
and-
members are sharing different information, which when they come in, well, then this council member told me this one doing this. So we really all need to be on the same page. And part of what Blake is saying is there's some basic things, like you ought to know which billing cycle when you should have your bill. So when people are calling to say, hey, I'm in this cycle, I didn't get my bill, or this is where I live, if it's late or a day late, they can say, we put it in the mail today, you should get it tomorrow. Those are not questions that need to go to the manager. There's certain things that somebody else should be able to answer. And right now, everything's being directed or funneled to one person who really needs to be dealing with problems that require some type of adjustment or some type of additional investigation. And we're finding different things for different situations. They're not all the same, and everybody's not calling here. Okay, so yes, there's a list of, again, when they give me the number every day, I have a problem with it. I know how many people call every day. 60 back here, 40 right here. Too many. That's 100. Too many calls on a water bill. 100. That's a problem. So our goal is to reduce that, take the ones that really aren't service calls or problem calls, just informational, and send them somewhere else to where any meter utility biller can respond to that. But the ones that need attention, that requires us to pull up their information or to check their meter, those need to be handled by management.
Just a quick note, just in an effort to improve the situation, we are updating the billing system as well. And we are using a system that was designed in the 60s. And that's one of the reasons, that's a part of the problem. With this new financial system, this is another module that we're going to implement, and we've discussed this, and we've upped the implementation of it sooner than later. Most likely, Blake and myself will be involved in installing it. But again, it's a good 6 to 9 month implementation. It's a process. But again, there's just in the effort to better the system, that is another facet of the meter situation that will be improved here in the coming future. just for information.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Yeah, thank you. I was just playing with some numbers here, and thinking about what Ms. Hotar brought up, and I came up. I used a number like $70,000. That including pay and benefits for per employee. You know, and for 10 years, that's only $4 million. You know, with 6 employees, just doing meters. If you look at it, you know, $420,000 a year, 6 employees at $70,000. 10 years, $4 million, $4,200,000. You know, I'm a big proponent of reading this thing manually, because in 10 years, sometime we're gonna have the same problem again, and we're gonna start having problem. Then we gotta go spend another at that time it might be $20 million. Who knows? It's $6 million now. So, you know, I suggested a while back, let's do half with electronically, let's do half manually, and let's see how we go from there. And then maybe in 10 years we can do the other half electronically and do the other half manually, and we might be able to handle some of these issues. But you know, we're just using that $70,000 a year with benefits and pay for someone, you know, to go do the meter thing with 6 people. To me, that's the way to go, and that's the most sure way to go. Now, either that or get a contractor to do it. You know, a contractor might be interested in doing something like that. I know in Lutcher up there, they still
plenty
do
in
the
this
St.
parish
James.
that do it for other utilities.
Yeah. You know, I mean, they don't have to write everything now. I mean, I see LP&L do it.
Yeah.
They come right at the meeting and put the numbers in the computer.
You know, I don't think any options are off the table thus far. Obviously, I know we've been throwing around the big number of
Right.
LT, but that's just giving us the flexibility and the availability and the authority to go to that extent. Certainly, we're not looking to spend that much.
And we can still use the
and so,
electronic system on our.
that's an interesting idea, and it's being kicked around as we speak. As far as if we can even implement 17,000 electronic, it might not be cost. You know, as Councilwoman Hotard said, might not be feasible to do that. So a half and half, the big section do it maybe to clear your time, or maybe the rural sections do it, so that you don't have somebody on the road running around out in the, you know.
Exactly, walking a mile to the next
Right,
house.
and
Yeah,
then, so you just do the manuals.
Right.
We can kick all that around, and it's certainly not off the table. Absolutely.
Right, okay.
Okay.
That's all I got, thanks.
Okay, I have a comment. I'd like to say, you know, we've been on this item a long time, but as council chair, I let everyone have their opinion, okay? So my thing is, when my item's on there, same thing. Okay, I don't care how long it take. Now, one other comment, what Ms. Hotar said about the manual thing, and what Mr. Snyder said, I'm in agreement with both of them. You know, maybe half and half. Okay, and just disagree, semi-agree, and then sort of disagree with Ms. Robottom said about the personnel. We have a lot of good personnel, and I know she know that we have a lot of good personnel that work for this parish in public works and in utilities that's tried their best. And you will have someone, and you will have some people in all departments, and not just in St. John Parish, that, you know, in other words, take the easy way. Try not to get by, try to get over. But the thing that I disagree with what you said was that you're not going to hire anymore. Well, we have to hire some more people, because if those individuals did what you say they do, they don't have any business being here working for the parish. And the fact that we don't do anything to those individuals, they're going to say that, hey, I can do it again, because they're not going to do anything to me.
I just
Okay?
want to clarify.
Wait,
I don't
let me
mind
finish.
replacing
I'm going
them.
to give you time,
Just
Ms.
don't add any 10
Robotham.
more.
Ms. Robotham, I'm going to give you time to clarify. Okay, I said here patiently when everybody talk. Okay, so everybody do the same. When you finish, I'll recognize you when I finish. Okay, but what I'm saying is, I don't care if they're civil service. I haven't been in civil service meeting when we got rid of employees. Take the step necessary to get rid of them. Okay, now in the meantime, they're working. They have to work, but still take the step to get rid of them and replace them. Because if you don't replace them, okay, or if I'm doing that and you're not gonna replace me, okay, I'm not worried about you. Okay, you can hoop and holler all you want. I'm gonna still 2 days later go back and do the same thing. Okay, so you take the step necessary to get rid of them. Okay, documentation. I know to get rid of civil service, you just can't walk up in there and say I won't fire them, but it's documentation. Okay, if you document someone did this on this date, You brought them in, you document it again, the third time, they bring them before the board and you get rid of them. But if you don't have that to your discretion to get rid of them, and they know you're not going to get rid of them, what incentive do they have to do their job? None. So you have to get rid of them. And I know you didn't mean that. And I'm going to give you a chance to explain it, but that's what it came off as. Okay, you're not going to do me anything. So I have no reason to do it.
No, I think what they know from me, something will be done. Now, I'm going to ask y'all cooperation.
I'll take it to the top.
When we go to the board, please don't defend them.
I can't
Please don't defend them.
You can't defend
because
that.
we have calculated, by the time, and I've shared this with my staff, if we are wrong, I will back off and make amendment. But if we're right, I'm coming to the Civil Service Board meeting, and I'm going to defend. If we've given you 4 opportunities and you still won't do your job, we have no problems going to civil service and terminating. That's not our goal. Okay, because we spend a lot of time investing into our employees, teaching them. There's no pride in having to re-advertise and replace repeatedly. That's a loss of time, but we do it. What I was saying was, don't add 2 more people to these 8, because these 8 aren't doing their job. Now, we replace people when they're gone, but throwing people at this problem just makes them think, well, I don't have to work as hard as 10 of us now instead of 8. And so that's what I was saying. I'm not, we replace people who either retire, we terminate, or resign or whatever. It's just, I don't think throwing people at this problem, which is what we've done, because based on when we started this problem, we've added 2 more people to that department, added another vehicle with electronic equipment. So, but that's not working. So what I'm saying is, throwing people at this problem is not the answer.
Right. Okay, the answer is getting rid of the ones that's not working and to follow the steps to civil service. Okay, the only thing I say about the civil service, I've been to a couple of the meetings, is to make sure that when they come, that they have their ducks in order. Because the last civil service meeting I went to, when they tried to get rid of an employee, the information that they had and the data that they had and the date and the time frame, they're lucky they were able to get rid of them. Okay, if this person had a good lawyer, he wouldn't have got rid of them. You have to have all your I's dotted and all your T's crossed when you come in front of the Civil Service Board. So my thing is documentation, write those individuals up, send it, do the process like you're supposed to do, and when you come to the Civil Service meeting, they can't say anything. It's a done deal. Okay, and that's how you get rid of them. And if you do it the right way and get rid of them, I guarantee the one that really want to work going to step up and start doing their job. But if A, C, B not doing anything, then C sure won't do anything.
Mr.
If A and B not doing anything.
I really, that's my thinking too. That was my thinking until we fired 2 and the other 8 doing the same thing. See, that was my thinking. Okay, not that you want to make an example. As I said, I take no pride in having to terminate people that I hired. Okay, because that's a reflection on me and my team that evaluated them. Okay, so we work hard to try and counsel and teach them what needs to be done. But it's like, at some point, we will make those efforts. And again, we had this conversation. We don't know why they're not learning. People are asking us, do they not know they have GPS on their vehicles? Do they not know? We tell them repeatedly, people are taking pictures of you. We see the number of your vehicle. We can track your vehicle. And you still do it? I don't know what the answer is. Okay, they all know. We discuss it on a regular basis. They sign a policy saying we can track them. We have their fuel allotments. All of this takes time, but they still do it. What we found on Friday was very easy to track, and they still did it. And that was after 2 people in their department were terminated for not doing their job, for not being where they were supposed to be, with the GPS tracking showing they were not where they were supposed to be. The same group was not where they were supposed to be.
Well, we have to do something, and there's a lot of people unemployed looking for work.
Right.
Okay, next on the agenda is Mr. Larry Snyder, update on Lyons Water Plant Intake Pump Project.
Thank you, Councilman, or Chairman. Councilman Snyder, this project had been bid twice previously. The first one, no one bid on because the price was so high, or because they thought their price was going to be so high that they bid on it. Second time, we value and engineer it, and only one person bid on it, and it was still, double the amount of the expected project budget. For the past couple months, and again, I will say this, for me to sit down with an engineer during the month of January was difficult. We're catching back up now with all of our design meetings and everything. This is one of the ones we're working on. We're trying to value engineer it again, maybe to, there's a lot of time and effort put into that project. What we're trying to do is not just scrap it, the design. We're trying to maybe phase it out. And so we're going to try to bid it one more time in a phased approach, do the work on the river house itself, and come back into the river on a later date if we don't see the full benefit of upgrading the pumps and the piping and everything that's in that river house. Taking it away from doing anything in the river takes us away from a lot of the permitting and everything that's going to happen, because it's all going to be within a already built footprint. So we're believing that there will be more contractors that will be willing to come to the table, bid on that work, because it's just a piping job with new pumps put in place. And then at a later date, if it's an additional funding that's required, we come to you all for some additional funding to get the new river intake structure into that project. So it's a difficult one, and it was not expected. It's unfortunate. It's one we need to move forward. I mean, we have 2.5. I don't recommend. To be honest with you, I wouldn't recommend to you all accepting that bid. I think it's too much for the work that's required. I think some of it may be the way it was designed, and the assurances and the insurances and everything from a contractor side. I think they put a lot of extra fat, so to speak, on top of those bid items to protect themselves because of the way it was asked for them to do that work. I think with a little bit more manipulation, we can maybe portion it out, get moving in the right direction with 1/2 of that project within our budget that was allotted, and then reassess it from that point forward. And this is all leading into, obviously, this is a first step in upgrading. That's one of the first steps in upgrading Lions as a facility. We've had preliminary talks recently about land acquisition we're hoping something comes on paper, that if we can get that property, as been discussed for many years now, that'll give us the right path forward to make the improvements and really significantly increase that capacity.
Well, could that be incorporated into that project? And we want to get that land acquisition thing going and get all the 2 other filters over there that we're supposed to have? And could this on the project be incorporated?
I would say yes, and
The land acquisition will be different.
operationally,
We're
I don't know
close.
that that's the next step, and that's something I've stood at this microphone and discussed on multiple occasions, and I know I was early on cutting my teeth when the water workshops and things were going on, but that is something we've stood behind. Upon investigation, there's multi-million-dollar worth of work we believe needs to go into that before that filter project. That's electrical, that's piping, that's the whole 9 yards. That's not insignificant. That is as much as the filters itself. To get the piping right so that we can utilize all of those filters, I can put them all in, and all they're going to be is redundancies to the 2 filters I have, which I have Laplace to be my redundancy if I have to stop the washer filter. So the expectation is, if we're talking about an increase in total capacity, I need all of those systems working in conjunction with each other rather than just that one. In fact, the MCC is completely full right now and doesn't have room to upgrade those filters into. So from an electrical standpoint, I don't know where we would operate the 2 new filters out of if we didn't do upgrades to the MCC. And at the point that we're going to make this a big improvement, just upgrading an MCC just to fit one more unit in it is not the path forward. Because eventually I would have to upgrade pumps, I would have to increase capacity of a lot of different things. So at this point, why not make that a priority and get a big enough electrical component to upgrade the plant as a whole? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure. It's where it's located and where all the piping is tied through. All the conduit and everything comes through the old building. I mean, that all needs to be upgraded. All of the electrical in that plant needs to be upgraded if we're going to continue to increase capacity.
Not only we need to continue to increase capacity, it's almost imperative that we increase capacity.
Absolutely.
We saw that the last we had.
100%.
So now we still coming up with excuses here.
That's not excuses. No,
well,
sir.
we're coming up with reasons why we can't do this.
We've been trying to increase capacity for 20 years in that plant. In fact, in 2012, I sat in this as a consultant. I sat as a consultant, and I understood it was supposed to be a 5 million gallon a day plant. And we're currently at 3.
I don't know. Yeah, I understand that.
I mean, so that's what I said. We are trying to increase. Absolutely, it's imperative that we do. But to do it for the next 10 to 15 years, it needs to be done right now, so that we don't. Again, we're talking about these repetitive shortfalls that we're coming around, and I'd rather not be involved in that conversation 20 years down the road that said we put duct tape on something and we're back.
Oh,
to the
I
same,
agree. I mean,
you know,
we got 2 filters in there now that to me look like they're working perfect. Nice, you know, it's nice to look at from the outside, and we got 2 sitting there not doing anything with. Okay.
What 2?
Well, the old ones. Ones. Are we using those? No, we're not using them.
They're not LDH compliant, and that was the reason we put in the new ones.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And we supposed to be 5 million. We got 3 million, 3.5 million, whatever the capacity is. The ones we got. We know we need some more. We know we need some more, especially with the backup on the west. We need to back up the West Bank with these things. So my question actually was with this. I'm still a proponent for new filters. Now I don't know why they got to be in there. They got to be. I don't know why they can't be in series. Or increase the capacity by making them parallel each other in time.
Well, it would. I mean, it's the intent of it would be to provide across the board. If I ran all of them at once, I can increase capacity of filtration. But I don't have the clarifier set up. I don't have the electrical right now. I don't have the raw water right now, and I don't have the high service pumping right now.
And we don't have the raw water because we can't.
Well,
can't get the
of
pumps
course,
done.
and that's been a project we've been working on and bid out twice trying to get that.
And that was my point. And with this, if we decide to get this land, we get this land,
Mm-hmm.
and we look at the whole picture. At a whole picture, then we could. Why can't we do it that way? I mean, I just hate to say, well,
Because I don't know
we can't
there's
do
enough
this or we
money to
can't
do
do
it
that
all.
because of this. You can do anything, you know.
I don't know if there's enough money to do it all, Councilman. And that's the only, and we can break it down. I mean, you and I can sit and talk about it, and I'd love to actually do that. Because I don't know that you could do it all at once. And if you spend money on something that's not going to immediately give you that benefit, then we're going to have to wait around until the money catches up to spend the money in other places so that it could actually benefit you in the way that maybe you want it to benefit. If it is an increased capacity, I would advise that there's other projects that have to happen before I can give you the money, the water that you expect to come out of those filters.
Other projects,
Yes, sir.
Like this.
like pumps,
Like,
like the pumps on the river.
Or this one, and then I mean I can tell you right now I don't have enough. I can't put enough water with the current piping at that plant. I can't put enough water to those 4 filters to run them all at one time.
And that's exactly what my point was. My question was, can we incorporate that pump system? Because right now it sounds like it's a money problem.
Well, I mean that's
If we come up with the money.
the money, and so it's all. I mean, you can incorporate them all together in one big project and do a total. I wouldn't advise that. I wouldn't advise doing them all at once and making it a $15 million project while the plant is currently operated. We ran a $2 million project and a $1.6 million project in that plant at the same time, and had two line busts during that line. 2 outages for this parish because of and it's not anyone's fault and not an issue. It's just from an operational standpoint of having that much work going on, that small of a footprint. I wouldn't. There's some things that need to happen in there to shore us up to make those improvements as we go
You
forward.
consulted with the parish engineer on this,
Absolutely.
And y'all in agreement.
I don't know that there was any disagreement. I just
Well, so you're in agreement then.
that what.
That we don't need to do that project because the piping is not there, the electronics is not there.
I
or the
never said
MCC
we didn't
building
need to do a
is
project.
It's not good enough.
Not right now. I think basically we've had this discussion. There's a series. There's millions of dollars worth of work in that plant. It's a matter of prioritizing. This was one. We knew we had to do this. This has been a problem for us because it keeps coming in greater than. And if it were greater than, we could take some money and do it. But I think based on engineering, it's like it's too expensive. Like it's not a realistic amount. So rather than spending the $2 million, we need to right size it and do it correctly so we're not wasting money. But that's one step. Changing the electricals, and I think the building that we have to tear down, that's part of the footprint, actually houses all the electrical. The other problem is we have to maintain our plant and keep it working while we're changing out things. We are closer to the property. We've had good meetings with the Port of South Louisiana. They sent over a draft document that we need to review for the property to expand the footprint. But I think we need to just put in sequence what has to happen because, we did add some things, but it didn't increase capacity. And I think it's because we were lacking in some other areas. So rather than continuing to make improvements, that don't really achieve what we're asking for, we would just rather move in the right direction so that as we get money to complete all the projects, that the systems that we put in are workable and working. So we can schedule a meeting on that, but this is a project. They
Schedule a
need a
meeting.
value engineer.
Let's
We need to
schedule a
get
meeting
this
with who?
done.
Would-
You, the parish engineer, and whoever else, just to discuss prioritizing what we know, what the cost estimates are for what needs to happen at that plant, and what order they need to be done in, so we can all follow the same plan.
Well, I guess we're not gonna get that solved here for sure, but, Ms. Remedy and Mr. Madare, I'm sure, and Mr. Becknell will probably be interested in that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Something like that. It's their water. I know what I need in LaPlace, and I haven't forgotten about that.
Okay. We're good.
Next item is Mr. Sarapari. He's not here, so I'm more than sure we'll table that item, carry it over.
Do you want to read the comments from the legal report?
Legal can,
I can read them.
yeah.
On the legal report, it states, our office advises that any questions regarding membership rules for the River Parish Tourist Commission should be directed to the legal counsel for the River Parish Tourist Commission. That's from legal.
That's from legal. Okay. We have a,
If we're gonna read that, we're not gonna discuss it?
no. He's not here. He's not here. We're not going to discuss it. We just read what legal said, recommendation was.
Okay.
Okay, there's one ordinance to be introduced. Read it for me.
Ordinance 1802, an ordinance to amend St. John the Baptist Parish Code of Ordinances, Ordinance 1754, to include section Court-Approved Community Service Program Coordinator, to provide a manner in which to carry out the duties and responsibilities of a Community Service Program Coordinator for the administration of the Community Service Program established in St. John the Baptist Parish. To read as follows.
That's it. There's no executive session today. Okay. Administrative report, comment. Parish President, presidential report.
Yes, just quickly, we want to thank everybody for helping to make the two parades in St. John roll. It was touch and go for a while, but thanks to public safety and everybody involved, the Sheriff's Office, communications, they made the right call, and both parades were able to roll. It does take a lot of effort from a lot of people, and we do want to thank the organizations and everybody who helped to make it a fun-filled weekend. As with every event, we will have an after-action meeting to discuss any shortfalls, concerns, or improvements that may need to be made. It hasn't been scheduled yet, but everybody involved in the process, both organizations and everybody who had a part in it, will be called to the table to assess what took place and make recommendations for next year. I'd also like to congratulate all of our local crews, kings and queens, and their courts for their Mardi Gras reigns. This includes our friends at Twin Oaks Nursing Home, the Council on Aging, and our War Veterans Home, who all had Mardi Gras balls last week. Thanks to communications, public safety, fire department, sheriff's office, and everybody who worked really hard, not just to get the parades off, but to do the cleanup afterwards. We had a plan, we implemented it. When things changed and we needed to adjust it, we did that on Monday morning. Again, we'll reassess how that took place and what may need to change for next year, but we did get everything cleaned up by Monday afternoon. I, along with Council Members Saraparu and Councilman Wright, met with our members of our Louisiana delegation in D.C. We discussed our levee project, flood insurance, railroad issues, and other important issues to St. John. We can assure you that our delegation is very familiar with our concerns, and they are going to be working with us on trying to address those. We also partnered with the Port of South Louisiana, St. James, St. Charles parishes to host our River Parishes Economic Development Initiative breakfast. It was standing room only. All of the delegations spoke, with the exception of Congressman Steve Scalise, who we all know is still on the road to recovery from the shooting accident. And it was very engaging, and again showed just how much our delegation knows about what our needs are. I'd like to congratulate St. Charles Catholic on the dedication of their new chapel and bell tower in honor of graduate Robert Hemel, a military hero and the only victim of the 9/11 terrorist attack at the Pentagon. The renovations and additions to the campus are also a great addition to the parish. Congratulations to all involved. I'd also like to congratulate Fresnia's Kidney Care, which is located at 704 Belterre Boulevard. It's a new dialysis center. We joined them for the official opening a couple of weeks ago. It's another significant commercial investment in St. John, and we look forward to working with the medical staff there on preventive efforts in our community. Clearly, they're there if needed, but the goal is to prevent people from having to need dialysis, and they'll be working with our Health and Human Services Director and some of our other healthcare providers to do some educational outreach on how to avoid needing dialysis. I'd like to remind everyone that February is Black History Month and Heart Health Awareness Month. This month, we especially encourage everyone to celebrate the contributions of African Americans to our parish and country by participating in events throughout the community. In honor of Black History Month, the local company, United Front Transportation Services, will be hosting a traveling lunch tour, which includes an African American history tour at several plantations in the parish and lunch at Clay's Cafe in Cambridge. I think they passed out some flyers. Did y'all get those? Bailey will also post them. Tickets can be purchased by calling the company at 877-275-2989. Again, that number is 877-275-2989. It is United Front Transportation Services, and this is a Black History Month promotion. The ladies of United Front Transportation are also recent graduates of the Fast Track program. We want to congratulate them on that. And they've also presented as a new business before the council, and they are here present. They'll also be hosting their official ribbon cutting ceremony on Thursday, February the 22nd at 10 a.m. at Destiny Christian Center on Main Street in LaPlace. Everyone is invited to attend the ceremony and learn more about their services. We also encourage everyone to raise awareness for heart disease and healthy habits to prevent heart disease. The office participated in National Wear Red to Work Day last Friday, and we continue to encourage everyone to wear red on Fridays throughout the month of February. We want to wish good luck to our Miss Undui Queen, Leah Alexander, who will spend next weekend competing at Louisiana Association of Fairs and Festivals Queen of Queens pageant in Baton Rouge. We want to wish her the best of luck and know she'll represent St. John Parish well as she competes against queens from across the state. We also would like to congratulate all of our River Region players who participated in National Signing Day last week. This is a tremendous accomplishment, and we look forward to following your bright careers after high school. Good luck, and we'll continue rooting for you throughout your next level. I'd also like to express sincere condolences to the Bardell and Wallace family on the loss of their two sons in a horrible accident this weekend. Barry Wallace, who's an employee of the parish, and Dana Wallace, who completed our artwork for the Undui Festival, are huge participants in our parish, and we ask that all of you keep them and their families in your prayers.
Thank you. Mr. Becknell, council brief.
Yes, I'd like to thank three departments that worked very close with me last month and is still working with me, and they address my constituents' concern: public safety, Travis Perilou, public utilities, Blake, and last but not least, public works, Verdell Kendricks. They helped me a lot, and that meant a lot to the constituents, and I really want to personally thank them. And I also would like to offer my condolences to the Wallace family.
Ms. Remedy?
Yes, on Mr. Danny Guidry of Pin Oak Terminals has asked me to thank everyone for their cause of concern with his recent illness and all the prayers. He is on his way to recover, and he appreciates everyone thinking of him. And also, I wanted to thank all the people also for their work with the parades. Although the weather was iffy, they did a very good job with getting that rolling. Thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
Thank you. First of all, happy Valentine's Day to everyone, all the ladies out there. My condolences also goes out to the Bardell family and the Wallace family for losing their two sons this past week. And I'd like to say this, since this is Black History Month, I'd just like to say that people like, for instance, we know that the people kind of paved the way for abolishment of slavery. They did well, and they are very appreciated. But I like to look at it more what the people of today at my time have done, and some of the people that I like to recognize is, of course, Mr. Homer Joseph. We know. I was often speak about him, and Mr. Victor Sanders and Mr. C.J. Watkins. Those three guys there. I think there are many others. Don't get me wrong, but those three guys there did a lot for a lot of youth in this parish, and they have tutored and coached a lot of youth that gone on to careers in professional athletes, and as athletes, professional football and baseball. And I just like to say that let's just show a little appreciation for the people that actually touch us directly here at home, and that's why I like to do things like recognize people like that. This is Homer Joseph and Victor Sanders and Mr. C.J. Watkins. They're all deceased by now, but they did a lot for the communities and getting our recreation program. Actually brought it to where it's at today, more or less. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mallett?
There we go. Just wanted to thank the Sheriff's Office for the quick response to the terminal that's a couple weeks ago when they responded to assist Danny Guidry, and more importantly to the Sheriff's Office, the Fire Department for their quick response. I've been associated with the Fire Department and the Sheriff's Office, and they're just the level of professionalism and care that they provide is phenomenal. Quite frankly, the parish gets their money worth. I also want to thank Alex Carter and Mr. Alexander for the assistance that they provided with me in some areas in my district these past couple weeks. So anyway, thank you all.
Ms. Hotel?
Thank you. I'd like to apologize for coming late. I got hung up in a little traffic. And also our fellow Councilman Wright, he's actually on his delayed honeymoon right now, so hopefully they're enjoying their time. And I would like to congratulate everyone who did have their hand in the parade. I thought, given all of the weather and everything that changed at the last minute, it turned out to be a beautiful parade. So I just wanted to thank everyone who participated in that. Thanks to all the staff members who are here. And also I would like to extend my condolences to the Bardell and Wallace family. I can't imagine the pain, that the family is experiencing right now, and so just want to keep the whole family in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, I think there's 2 days that's devoted directly to females, and that's Mother's Day and Valentine's Day. So I'm not going to ever wish any young man or man a happy Valentine. Okay, so those 2 days are strictly for females, and so much they deserve those 2 days. So make sure there's a female in your life, you take care of them very well today. Also, I'd like to give my condolences to the Wallace and Bardell family. The Wallaces are my cousin, related to me. Okay, so when I received that phone call about what happened, I went to the residence and to give my support to the family, and quite naturally, I didn't expect to find Danica there, and she was not there. They told me she was in the hospital, and I mean, it's just a very sad situation. You don't know what to say to someone that have that much of a loss all at once. My cousin, Barry's mother, she only had 2 grandsons, okay, and she lost them at the same time. So just keep them in your prayers. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.